Chapter 1. Have you ever been betrayed by loved ones? Have you felt the icy blade of a knife, sharply stuck somewhere in the area between the shoulder blades? Did you feel the poison of betrayal, poisoning the blood, corroding the veins and arteries from the inside? Did the abyss open in the chest, devouring all feelings and emotions? If you are not familiar with these feelings, then you have the right to call yourself the happiest person in the world. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, and in a few moments I will die from a lot of blood loss, although in fact, I feel like I am dying from that very friendly knife in my back. My body was pierced through by the hand of a former comrade, whose face lit up with an insane smile. Scarlet drops seep through clothes, flow down the torso, leaving crimson paths, and quietly break into the water. We are located in the heart of the lake in the Valley of the End. Once upon a time, the great warriors Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara fought here. True, at that time the representative of the Uchiha clan was defeated. Now the situation is treacherously opposite. The body gradually becomes numb, the limbs freeze, despite the warm weather, the mind is covered with a heavy fog. Blood rapidly fills his mouth, hindering his breathing, and seeps through parted pale lips. The lungs are feverishly trying to saturate the still warm body with life-giving oxygen. The heart, weakened by each beat, still beats a fast, but already indistinct rhythm. Awareness of the inevitable breaks through a viscous stream of tattered thoughts. Few people have seen their death in the face. Maybe they saw it, but they will never tell about it. My death has always been near. So close and, it would seem, always so unattainable. And now her bloody eyes, sparkling with the pride of a conqueror, contemptuously peer into my face, as if trying to find something she alone knows. A gentle breeze plays with the raven curls, and that habitual contemptuous mockery touches the lips. Uchiha Sasuke once again, with the elegance inherent only in his clan, defeated the enemy, erasing him to dust. Lord, how it hurts! With the pleasure of a seasoned sadist, he slowly pulls his hand out of my body. Sharp pain and burning force me to come to my senses before the world began to plunge into darkness again. The Uchiha is holding my half-dead body and is clearly enjoying the last beat of someone else's life in his hands. The damned Sharingan went out, showing me the bottomless blackness of the eyes. His head, as if 1,000 times heavier, limply sank to his chest. Beneath us are waters stained with my blood. The Uchiha has enough chakra to keep us both on the water. I suddenly imagined how, having played enough with my body, Sasuke throws the corpse into the lake and disappears forever. This reservoir will remain the last earthly refuge, carefully laying my bloodless body to the bottom. The people of Konoha won't be upset about the death of a stupid idiot, or maybe they won't notice my disappearance at all. People have always hated me. In general, anything can become the cause of a person's hatred, from gait and manner of speech, to ideals and outlook on life. In my case, this cause was something ancient that is sealed in me. The brand of an outcast on my belly, the spiral and the 8 branches coming from it, to this day does not let me forget the hidden fear in the eyes of everyone who has ever spoken to me. The Uchiha runs thin fingers through my blonde hair and pulls up, forcing me to look into his eyes. What does he want? I am no longer able to continue the battle. Coal eyes with the same cold contempt dig into the soul. How much hatred is in this soul, the color of which is no lighter than the color of his eyes. Sasuke clutches his blonde locks painfully in his bloodied hand, curling his thin lips. Sooner or later you had to die, the Uchiha spits. There is no place in the world for such worthless idiots, Uzumaki. I really want to answer him. To say that a spoiled boy, pretending to be a lone avenger, is really worth nothing, or to hit backhand, breaking someone else's lips, shouting in your face that no one needs the last proud offspring of the clan. I want to laugh caustically, burning out all his weak points, waving his plans and dreams with ashes. I want to phantom tingling in my fingertips, but the strength finally left the body. I can only look furiously at him, mentally dragging him to the bottom of the lake. Blood rushed out of his mouth with new force, blocking the access to oxygen. Sasuke darkens, but I can no longer see his bleak eyes or his alabaster skin. A nasty squeak is heard in my head, getting louder with every second. The sickening taste of metal on his tongue made him sick in hot waves. The Uchiha opens his arms. A loud splash, splashes and insistent touches of icy water all over my body are the last thing that stuck in my memory. The eyes cannot open, the air does not enter the lungs, the arms and legs stubbornly pull to the bottom. Water takes away the pain, gently sinking deeper and deeper, soothes with cold and silence. And in this pleasant silence, I can only remotely hear the conversations of people, someone's laughter, someone's screams. The viscous darkness is gradually filled with colorful fragments of memories. Chapter 2. I will not forget the human hatred that the villagers generously poured on me from early childhood. The sound of my name for them is nothing more than an unusual synonym for the words demon, leper, insignificance. People have always despised, hated, shunned only because someone third after my birth decided to use the newborn body as a vessel for the Nine-Tails monster. From the very beginning of my earthly journey, I have been forced to carry within myself an endless supply of rage, concentrated in an ephemeral clot of energy. What tricks I did not dare to attract the attention of people. I dreamed of proving to everyone that this child, whose tousled hair was constantly shimmering in the sun, and whose knees did not have time to heal from constant falls, was the same person. For a long time, the paint from the face and fingers did not rub off after I generously smeared the stone figures of the Hokage. If I'm not mistaken, that trick cost me a severe reprimand for damaging the property of the village. In the small, sly eyes of Old Man 3, forever hidden under the shadow of the village leader's red hat, one could read poorly concealed contempt. From time to time, lazily scratching his gray beard, Hiruzen had small talk with me, smoothly flowing into the usual moralizing and reasoning about the morality and duty of shinobi. A vicious circle of lies and mutual aggression has swallowed up the innocence and purity of the soul, separating me from the rest of the children. The heavenly color of the eyes burned with ice more and more often when I accidentally noticed my reflection in the glass of the shop windows. The thought of constant loneliness is so ingrained in the daily flow of events that I got used to it, ceasing to be horrified by such a situation. Yumino Irika became the first barrier that prevented me from falling into the abyss. One of the few who believed in me and the only one who reached out. Sensei was ready to give his life for my skin when the rascal Mizuki tried to deceive me. Irika put himself under attack in the truest sense of the word. No one had ever done anything like this for an outcast before. After that mess, Irika gave me his protector. In the metal plate, I saw the reflection of the child's face, wet with tears. Such a modest but immeasurably generous gesture gave me hope that someday I will achieve popular recognition. The Shinobi Academy opened its doors to everyone, including me. At first, the learning process was rather monotonous. Students were taught reading, writing, mathematics, geography and other sciences. We learned how to handle weapons at the training grounds of the academy. We also had taijutsu, ninjutsu and genjutsu classes. In general, all training was reduced to the formation of strategic skills and shinobi prudence, without which it is impossible to win in battle. I did not become an outstanding student. I could not even come close to the title of pride of the academy, unlike Uchiha Sasuke, who, ironically, or at the behest of management, became my teammate. A talented student who survived the massacre of his own clan, he seemed cold, despised those around him and did not let a single soul near him. Marble, handsome face was always covered with a touch of slight contempt for the world. Sasuke proudly considered himself a loner. But what can he know about loneliness? Always surrounded by crowds of beautiful girl fans and the patronage of teachers, the Uchiha continued to play hard to get. And I envied him. He envied talent, a bunch of fans, the indulgence of management, even the envy of the rest of the students of the academy. And what a surprise it was when the brunette announced that the murder of his brother was the only goal, almost the meaning of his whole life. Being a homeless child from birth, I considered this goal an impossible and unforgivable stupidity. This was partly the reason for the frequent brawls and fights between us. I wanted to bring the arrogant to the ground and prove to myself, first of all, that I really could do it. But the Uchiha was never simple, and every time it ended with broken faces, deep cuts, light concussions or lacerations. As a constant instigator of fights with the best student, I was a big problem for the entire academy, and my already lying at the bottom of the sea credibility tended to vanish. But the Uchiha was never simple, and every time it ended with broken faces, deep cuts, light concussions or lacerations. As a constant instigator of fights with the best student, I was a big problem for the entire academy, and my already lying at the bottom of the sea credibility tended to vanish. But the Uchiha was never simple, and every time it ended with broken faces, deep cuts, light concussions or lacerations. As a constant instigator of fights with the best student, I was a big problem for the entire academy, and my already lying at the bottom of the sea credibility tended to vanish. You might think that I know nothing about life except deprivation and envy. This is not entirely true. Love once was present in my life. Her name, Haruno Sakura, still gives an unpleasant prick somewhere in her chest. A kunoichi from my team with piercing eyes the color of young grass. She wasn't unbelievably beautiful or accommodating or kind, but there was something about her that touched a boy's heart. Sometimes, looking at her pale pink curls, invariably smelling of cherries, or clean clothes without a single fold, I suffocated from the tenderness growing somewhere deep inside. Sometimes I thought that my monster was buried alive under a layer of cherry blossom petals, representing my first feelings. For a while, I continued awkward courtship attempts, slipping in an effort to protect, support, make laugh, be near, but each time they boiled down to curses and beatings from Haruno. She was in love with Sasuke, was one of his herd of admirers. Roughly pushing in the chest, trampling modest bouquets of flowers, furtively plucked at night from neighboring flower beds, first love hurt like no other. Looking at the back of the girl leaving with her chin proudly thrown up, her cheeks burned with fire, and I knew that it was far from a biting slap in the face. Tired of the routine of days, I went to the Hokage. Team missions for weaklings, as it seemed to me, were fed up with impossibility. I wanted more complex tasks. Oddly enough, not only was I not thrown out of the residence, but they even went to a meeting. The next challenge for Team 7 was to protect Carpenter Tazuna. Everything was just exactly right until the moment when a tall figure of a mist swordsman emerged from the fog. Then, standing in front of the mountain of muscles Momochi Zabuza, I only thought that on my shoulders lay the burden of responsibility for the entire team. Let Haruno trample me into the dirt over and over again, let the Uchiha burst with independence and pride, let Hatake be disappointed with the third part of our team. Let it be so, but I did not want them to die under the blade of Momochi's wide sword. Zabuza's partner Haku's trap was a real test for our team. The boy easily pulled Sasuke into a mirror prison, who was no longer helped by either the vaunted Sharingan or clan fire techniques. Seeing the helplessness and confusion on his usually proud and calm face, I rushed to save him like the last fool. Of course, the idea of at least something to help Sasuke was a failure. And at a moment when it seemed that life depended on the speed with which Haku's needles reached me, the Uchiha took the blow. Sasuke Uchiha, a local star, the future of the village and a role model for the kids, sacrificed himself to save me. Not for Sakura's sake, not for Sensei's sake, not even for the unfortunate carpenter's sake, the brunette allowed sharp ice needles to pierce his sinewy body. Of course, I couldn't afford to be in debt. The sight of a half-dead comrade for the first time in my life made the ancient power sealed in me tremble. The world was filled with red lights, surrounding us both. The muscles seemed to be filled with lead, and in the mouth it became crowded from growing fangs. A shiver ran down her spine at the sight of fingers twisting and fingernails lengthening. But the most intoxicating feeling among all this chaos seemed to be the feeling of limitless possibilities. I felt like I was in danger of exploding if I didn't start moving. My inner monster shared a piece of power that kept entire villages at bay. I remember I was ready to tear each enemy with my bare hands, biting into the throat. An insane bloodlust filled his mind. I felt like scratching the skin, tearing the muscle fibers hidden under it, reveling in the hot scarlet viscosity. I haven't experienced this before. The details were erased from memory, but I definitely did not cause the death of the swordsman and his comrade. They died at the hands of others, clean and quiet. Sasuke quickly recovered from the mission, and I naively believed that something more than constant quarrels would begin to emerge between us. The chunin exam consisted of 3 stages. The meaning of the first is still not clear to me. They arranged a fake test, and when I expressed everything I think in my hearts, we were congratulated on passing. At the second stage, it was necessary to get 2 scrolls and stay alive. In the forest, someone named Orochimaru was able to catch Sasuke in a genjutsu, and here for the first time I saw real horror in the boy's eternally cold eyes. Nuke gave him the cursed seal of power, deftly and securely tying the guy to him. The old scoundrel knew that the spoiled boy was greedy for free power. So many people passed to the 3rd stage that it was decided to carry out additional slaughter in order to weed out the weak. I got Kiba and his faithful dog Akamaru as opponents. I won the battle, although the guy who smelled like dog hair for a mile knows his stuff. For the next, final duel, I needed new knowledge. The set of moves that I had in my arsenal was too limited to fight against, nearly, ready-made chunin. I begged Kakashi to spend time with me and teach me something useful. But what sensei would want to waste time and energy on a mediocre student? So Hatake did not spray himself into stupidity, preferring to train with the best part of the team. I trained with Ebisu until I caught Jiraiya's eye. One of the 3 legendary Sannin of Konoha, the recluse molded me into a much more intelligent shinobi in a short time. Victory in the next stage was only a matter of time. A few days later, Niji Hyuga, the genius of his clan, was defeated by the useless Uzumaki Naruto. This event slightly excited the public and made me believe in my strength, but the true victory was the praise of Jiraiya, whose authority rose to heaven in my eyes. But the Uchiha did not get the coveted victory so easily. At first, he had to chase the fleeing Gaara through the forest for a long time. Then the sandy assassin turned into a one-tailed demon gave him a strong beating. The guy turned out to be a Jinchuriki, and I was suddenly drawn to him. I finally met someone who was just like me. At that moment, I was overcome by a thirst to know this person, to find out if he was just as lonely and persecuted, if he had goals and hopes, if he would become a person capable of lightening our common burden. And I managed to get through to him. Temari and Kankuro took the defeated brother back to the village, and I was left lying on the cold ground with a smile, wondering under what conditions we would meet next time. And there will definitely be a next time. While we were having fun in the forest, the village was attacked by the troops of the villages of Hidden Sound and Hidden Sand. The enemies retreated after our return, but Orochimaru, the one who scared Sasuke to death, killed the third Hokage. It rained relentlessly all day as the village gathered at Hiruzen's funeral, mourning the leader. Team 7's next mission was to find a new Hokage. Before leaving, Jiraiya taught me a technique aptly called the Rinnegan. So far, I consider it the best thing I have ever learned in Konoha. In the same period of time, people in black cloaks with red clouds came for me. That's how I learned about Akatsuki. There were only 2 of them, but their gut told them that they would have the strength to destroy a good half of the village. A blue brute with a huge sword quickly put everything in its place, declaring that they had come for me. The second one remained silent, looking at me impartially with painfully familiar coal eyes. When a younger Uchiha appeared at the end of the corridor with a Sharingan and a Chidori at the ready, I immediately realized that the second criminal was the same mythical brother who needed to be killed. If Sasuke was considered a talent, a nugget and stuff like that, then his brother seemed like God to me. Not a single muscle of his face flinched as he pulled the sparkling lightning away from him, deftly pressing his brother into the wall. Stupidly similar, but so different. For some reason this thought stuck in my head for a long time. This brawl would surely end with a fried ass of a distraught Sasuke. Soon we went to look for our future Hokage. How surprised I was when this absurd woman called us fools and refused to accept the post of head of the village. Out of anger, I challenged her to a duel and, of course, was trimmed in walnut. With great difficulty, but still, I achieved her respect and, giving me her grandfather's necklace, Tsunade became the 5th Hokage. The burning sensation in his eyes turned into a sharp pain that surrounded the entire skull like a belt. The optic nerve inside the eye seemed to turn inside out. Nothing compares to this kind of pain. Being a drowned man without 5 minutes, resigned to his fate, I suddenly wanted to extend the minutes of my life. There is no air, causing the lungs to helplessly contract. I try to scream, move my limbs, do anything, but nothing comes out. Fear suddenly gripped the dead man's throat. I want to live. That thought lit up like a bright star in the night sky. I will find millions of reasons for happiness, I will have goals and dreams, my life will be filled with meaning. Just not to die now. For a moment it seemed as if the pressure of the water was decreasing, and after a while I was already looking forward to the fast air, so desirably filling my lungs. As if some kind of force slowly pushes the body up, laying on the water surface under the warm rays of the sun. Coughing and wheezing, I greedily grabbed saving oxygen with my mouth. I never thought before that such a simple pleasure would make me feel like the happiest person ever. Having given myself a break, I continued to lie on the coolness of the water and enjoy the warmth of the sun, pleasantly scorching my face. Gathering my remaining strength, I quickly opened my eyes. The burning sensation intensifies again, causing tears to immediately collect in the corners of the eyes. Despite this, I noticed the smoke hovering over the lake, and the incredibly bright nature behind it. The sky, trees, rocks and water itself are as if sprinkled with gold, so they blind the eye, forcing you to squint. A large blood loss makes itself felt by the weakness that has arisen in the body. The environment becomes cloudy again, becomes blurry, the eyes close limply, and the noise in the head intensifies. I really wanted to fall asleep, at least for a few minutes. A second before losing consciousness, I managed to notice a tall red-haired man in black clothes dotted with red spots. He is rapidly approaching me. Chapter 3. I wander so long in pitch darkness that my legs begin to buckle from fatigue. How long have I been here? And, more importantly, where is here? This darkness presses on my consciousness, frightens me with the unknown, but I continue to move on unhindered. The usual rustle is not heard from the steps, the screams do not echo into the depths of space, but the feeling of someone else's presence, someone else's gaze scurries under the skin, giving off goosebumps. And suddenly I hear a heavy lingering exhalation filled with disappointment. I've caught a faint note of unrealistic hope in Kakashi-sensei's breathing enough times that I now mistake it for simple lack of air. Someone watching me from the void clearly expected more. As if in confirmation of these thoughts, a huge eye opens before me. A network of small vessels entangled in swirls stretches to a bright red iris framing the animal's elongated pupil. My gaze deftly slid down and, bypassing the bright red hair, stopped at the massive fangs that squeezed the terrible mouth. Togo and Look will have a bite into 2 parts. The predator doesn't blink, just looks at me expectantly at arm's length. The cold from the fox chills me to the bone, and I hurriedly wrap my arms around my shoulders, trying to keep the last of my warmth. The demon's eyes flicker with contemptuous mockery, and it begins to emit a quiet vibrating sound, quickly turning into a full-fledged growl of a hungry beast. It gets so loud that I have to put my hands over my ears and squat lower to the ground. All of a sudden everything went silent. The feeling of the weight of my own body began to bring me back to my senses, despite the fact that my head was exploding from the Ninetales' just surging sonic attack. Barely moving my fingers, I feel the roughness of the fabric on which I am lying, and the softness of the bedding. With difficulty, I bend my knees and raise my hand unsteadily to my face. It was as if I had been beaten for several hours in a row, otherwise how to explain the bodily weakness? Naughty fingers immediately stumble upon a rag that hides his face. What is this? Why is this? Throwing away the unnecessary object, I open my eyes. Everything is spinning like a whirlpool, and I begin to fall into a slumber. But I don't want to see the embittered fox at all, and, having gathered the rest of my strength, I sit down on the bed, still not opening my eyes. The cold bites my bare feet nasty, I hardly touch the floor. The noise in my head gradually subsides, clarifying the recent events, the saturation of which makes me swallow nervously. If everything is correct, then why did I wake up not at the bottom of the lake, but in a musty room? And how could I wake up after such a beating? Panic slowly but surely begins to blossom in his chest. So what do I have? It is not known how the body remained in an active state, which someone carefully took out of the swamp and transferred to the dungeon, judging by the stale air. This is exactly it, atrophied vision and a bijou who hates me. The alignment is not at all happy, but at least I'm alive. I raise my hands and feel my face. Hot, painful to touch. It can be seen that Sasuke did a good job, once again honing his blows on him. Probably all cuts and bruises. Somewhere the skin is cracked, the lips are dry and rough. Remembering the decisive wound, I immediately lower my palms to the body and feel for the bandage, obviously closing the wound. How did I survive? Obviously, it was not the fox who treated me all this time. In addition, I am wearing someone else's clothes, even if they are several sizes larger, but soft and warm. A second wave of panic compels me to try again to open my eyes. Driven by adrenaline, the heart accelerates the blood through the body, it becomes hot. Come on Naruto, you gotta get your feet out of here. Slightly opening my eyelids, I listen to the sensations. The head did not go round, the rumble in it does not become louder, a good sign. Now you can assess the extent of the disaster with your own eyes, so to speak. Feelings did not disappoint, I am clearly in a cave without a hint of windows and fresh air. But the strange thing is that this grotto looks quite cozy and habitable. Clean linen on the bed, a wooden bedside table nearby. In one of the four corners you can see a clothes hanger, and in the opposite corner of the room there is a wash basin and a small mirror above it. Opposite the bed was a rather massive wooden door, next to which a torch flame danced fervently, the only source of light. It must be much more effective than that tiny candle in my closet, if its light illuminates even the darkest corners of the space so brightly. Spitting on weakness, I rise to my feet and carefully step on the cold stone towards the mirror. Locked in a stone coffin, narrowly escaped death, but still worried about appearance. As practice has shown, self-irony is the best way to survive daily hardships. Somehow hobbled to a fragment in the wall, there is no other way to call this tiny mirror, I almost fall from surprise. In a mean reflection, a swollen blonde face with scratches and bruises with huge lilac eyes looks at me. Another wave of sticky fear sweeps up to the very top of my head, when, pulling the skin around my eyes with trembling fingers, I begin to peer into these circles. As a child, I loved to go outside after the rain and run through the puddles. Once again, having scared all the passers-by with my grubby face, I sat down at the edge of the road and, out of boredom, began to throw stones into a huge puddle. So, the circles on the dirty water, emanating from the very center, exactly repeat the pattern that flaunts on the eyeball. I recoil from the mirror and breathe loudly, looking down at my palms. Breathing is more difficult than before, but I continue to study the vague flickering, which immediately turns into a clear image: vessels, blood flow, muscles and ligaments, bones and chakra flows entangling the nerve endings of the fingers. It was as if a picture came to life, schematically drawn by the teacher on the blackboard during the next lesson. Something hot and vile ran down his cheeks and dripped from his chin, preventing complete loss of self-control from the sight of his own palms. A strong smell of iron hit my nose, and the burning intensified, forcing me to hurriedly walk and fall on the bed. Scouring the entire surface of the bed with my palms, I lift the bandage and cover my face, awkwardly rubbing the blood on my cheeks. So inopportunely awakened despair vile whisper from the depths of the soul insinuates that the point of no return has been reached. Obviously, I can't show up to the village like this. I don't get much pity anyway. Crossing my arms over my chest, I frowned. What does it get? The uchiha not only beat me half to death by throwing me into the lake, but also caused this to wake up? Of course, I'm not stupid and I know about all these legendary dojutsu, anomalous eyes with a bunch of cool skills, but where am I? The Uchiha clan and the Hyuga clan profit from this from century to century, but neither Uzumaki Naruto is the owner of a rune demon that no one needs. Trying to distract myself from heavy thoughts and growing irritation, I untie the bandage on my torso and feel the oblong scar. It does not hurt at all, although it takes a long time to recover from such an injury. Either I'm in bed for a few weeks, or someone really cares about my condition. Memory obligingly tosses the red-haired figure I saw on the lake. It is merciful enough to help the weak, but to what end? Does he not know who I am? Quiet footsteps outside the door echoed in my head and, frozen in place, I hear the creak of the door opening. A rustle of clothes ran through the room, then there was the jingle of an old hanger. Someone slowly moved in the other direction, and the silence is broken by the murmur of water. He chuckled and left the room, not bothering to close the door behind him. With all my might, holding back my heart rushing out, I exhale raggedly and lift the blood-soaked rag from my face. Ignoring the tingle at the back of my head from the overexertion of my newfound eyes, I glimpse where someone was rubbing himself. The eye immediately clings to the damn cloak in the red cloud, and the heart with tripled strength resumes its attempts to leave the chest. Quick footsteps along the corridor were heard again, but already two strangers were hurriedly heading towards me. Putting the bandage back in place, I stretch out my arms and freeze in anticipation. People entered, and warm hands immediately touched the face, removing the dirty rag. The second pair of hands, which felt larger and colder, began to gently wipe the caked blood from her fingers. A barely perceptible smell of nutmeg touched my nose, and I gladly sucked more than it was supposed to into my lungs. Curiosity darkens the mind more than fear. Come what may. I raise my eyelids and see a red-haired guy on his knees, seriously taking care of my hands. A huge number of piercings, it is literally strewn with them, immediately catches the eye. Even his hands are pierced. Does he like it that much? The dark clothing creates a stark contrast to his pallid skin. And this is not at all surprising, without discounting his dwelling in a cave. In another part of the room, I notice a slender girl with short blue hair standing sideways to me. With a nonchalant expression, she washes off the bandages, deftly wringing out the water. She is wearing loose clothing, which creates an even greater sense of the fragility of the female figure. But for some reason I think that the fighting girlfriend of the redhead is clearly not a blunder. What mere mortal could survive side by side with a criminal from Akatsuki? My attention again smoothly flows to the guy. The lawless one who is so carefully bothering me does not at all cause the disgust that we were prophesied about at the academy. Something elusive in the appearance of a stranger, maybe his correct nose and tightly compressed thin lips, or disheveled hair the color of a bright flame against the background of snowy skin, contrary to all the words of the teachers, catches the eye. Feeling the steady look, the young man raised his head, looked at me and called out to the girl. The stranger immediately appeared behind him, but I did not even look at her, because again I saw circles on the water, because his eyes are the same as mine. Chapter 4. The redhead looks so intently, so attentively, scattering crowds of goosebumps all over his body. From his gaze it becomes uneasy, as if something alien is scratching the skull from the inside. Feelings merge with the guttural growl of the nine tails, clearly unhappy with the current situation. Amethyst depth deprives mind. Obscenely long and openly I continue to examine the neat drawing on the surface of the eyes, not finding in myself either the desire or the strength to turn away. It was as if we met in a silent duel, who will yield first? Finally, you came to your senses, the stranger began, still burning holes in me. The Rinnegan awakened in time, healing your wound. Otherwise, the end could have been more sad. His eyes flickered over my face, carefully examining every injury. The girl behind him hid her hands behind her back, silently participating in our conversation. Up close, she seems even taller, looking down at me with her amber eyes. A cute piercing labret flaunts under the lower lip, emphasizing a certain rebellious identity. A small paper flower was lost in a blue mop of hair. Despite her feminine appearance, the perfectly straight back and sharp shoulders reflect the stamina and coldness of the stone every now and then. So it's the Rinnegan, right? The greatest dojutsu from the legend of the great sage, passed from mouth to mouth of ninja of different generations. For the first time in my life I regret that I did not become the best student of the academy. I should have skipped classes less, maybe I would have remembered something. Are you happy with the changes? The guy asks in bewilderment, hoping for a grander reaction. Am I glad? Excited to have unlimited possibilities in addition to obscenely huge reserves of bija chakra, after so many years, to kick the ass of anyone who dared to trample me in the dirt? Is it glad? Certainly. But here comes a new problem. They are afraid of me in the village, I mutter indistinctly in response, examining the lines on my palms, and now they won't want to deal with such a person at all. Moreover, who will teach me how to use these things? I can help you. Not a hint of mockery or deceit appeared on the grayish face of the guy. He looks reservedly and waits for an answer. I furtively glanced at the cloak, left alone in the corner, and remembered a strange couple of bandits who had shown up in Konoha for my soul. He obviously knows me and knows that the position robs me of any choice. What do you want in return? The alarm rose with renewed vigor, and I looked incredulously at him and the girl, who was still in control of the situation. It seemed to me, or the shadow of a slight smile touched her thin lips. No, it's all unnecessary excitement. You will stay here, the young man said dryly. By all appearances, you perfectly understand who you are with, but your biography is not a secret for us, Naruto. Now it is not safe to release such a rare specimen. So you will help me if I join your gang? It is not necessary. You will be supervised and assist when needed. Pretty modest price to pay for the opportunity to tame your gut, right? Nothing remains. Run to where I'm not expected. Miss the opportunity to master unique techniques. More stupid than senseless running after Sasuke can only be an admission of his own impotence in front of new abilities. After all, what am I risking? I will fulfill my end of the bargain, the steel clinked in my voice. The redhead smiles reservedly and gets up from his knees. Two pairs of eyes, raw amber and clear amethyst, look down at me. Young people exchange glances, as if understanding each other without words. Then the girl goes to the wash basin and brings me a clean bandage, carefully covering the upper part of the face. They walk towards the door. My name is Pain, my new acquaintance throws over his shoulder, almost leaving the room. The girl, Conan, will bring you dinner in 2 hours. Tomorrow I will introduce you to the others. Now you should rest. Thanks, I say politely before the door closes softly. I myself do not know whom I thank, the future mentor of the owner or his staunch companion. There is deafening silence in the room. The confusion raging inside completely forbids thinking about rest. For some reason, this is not the same excitement that I felt standing at the door of the Hokage's office after another trick. It's more like a foretaste of something so grandiose that it's scary to imagine. Though it's not out of the question that they'll make me a new cook or something like that. But still, the combat skills that Pain promises me are too beckoning. With gentle palms they turn a blind eye to any difficulties and humiliations associated with obtaining them. Fantasy obligingly draws Sasuke's face twisted with envy and Sensei Kakashi's silent admiration, Jiraiya and Iruka's full of pride smiles, Kunoichi's embarrassed looks and greeting gestures of classmates. Pictures are bright, memorable, so light and desirable, you just have to reach out and touch. Here I am standing in the Hokage's office, and the fifth with undisguised admiration gives me all the reports on the internal and external affairs of the village. Here I am meeting new students who entered the academy, and I tell them all the heresy that they told us. And here I am already taking the exams for the title of chunin. No one dares to contradict me, because this is not necessary. I have achieved respect and recognition. And then, returning home in the evening, not to a cramped cell, but to a spacious and bright apartment, I habitually catch a tenacious purple look in the mirror. I get out of bed to somehow calm my raging imagination. It is foolish to start feeding yourself empty hopes before you have entered the path of harsh training and constant being in the circle of criminals. Someone else's nobility can end at the most inopportune moment, so do not relax, swinging on sugar clouds. The ill-fated cloak looks at me mockingly, the bandage hardly leaves my face again. He seems to be testing for strength, as if asking, how are you going to clear up this mess? Naruto, where did you get yourself into again, Uzumaki? Go to hell, I meant a cloak and immediately grin. Wow, I'm already discussing clothes. Maybe Pain is right and I really need to rest for Conan. It was not enough for her to see this absurdity. After all, she would throw out the eccentric. After a quick drink of cold water and a little stretching of the muscles that have become stiff from prolonged lying, I again climb into my place and turn away to the wall. To be honest, my hair stands on end at the thought of tomorrow, especially about the part of it where I get to know relatives. It is unlikely that the guys from Akatsuki became famous for their noble deeds, sincere generosity and a righteous lifestyle. Won't I turn into a training dummy for the same blue thug who, the last time we met, was throat-throwing the whole of Konoha? Or maybe they will decide to use me as a nightstand for the legs of a brother who needs to be killed. Sad thoughts are interrupted by a sudden dream. Chapter 5. Chilling wind beats in the face and penetrates under the clothes, insistently touching the ribs with cold fingers. The sky was securely covered with lead clouds, as if not wanting to see the nightmare happening on the mortal earth. A flash of lightning lit up the ruined village for a second, followed by a deafening rumble of thunder. A short lull was immediately broken by the roar of exploding shells thrown in a chain along the main street. The bright glow of the explosions illuminated the twilight with an eerie brilliance, which made Konoha even more like a giant torch. A lone figure stands motionless on the Hokage rock. The wind mercilessly develops the skirts of the black cloak, trying to inadvertently tear off the robe. Indifference, mixed with a bit of disgust, expressed in a slightly raised upper lip, now and then flashes on a young face. He tilts his head slightly to the right, causing wind-tossed blonde curls to cover his forehead and slashed cheeks, and crosses his arms over his chest. A line of mangled bodies looms along the streets. Someone met death under the walls of a collapsed dwelling, not having time to get out of a warm bed, a shell fell on someone, tearing the body to shreds. Someone lost his life with a well-aimed blow to the temple or throat. Still, some, for example, a blood-stained girl with pale pink matted hair, is trying with her last strength to help those who still have a meager chance of surviving a bloody night. A tenacious gaze enchantedly pursues a young girl. She chokes and coughs loudly, covering her face with a scratched hand in the hope of at least somehow hiding from the acrid smoke that has enveloped the village. A faint green glow appears under the kunoichi's palms as she reaches another wounded man, limbs spread absurdly in anticipation of an imminent death. The chakra is running out, and the physician understands this. The rebelliousness in the girl's blood will not allow her to give up. She would rather tear off the last crumbs from herself than allow the death of the patient. A lazy gesture of the hand provokes another explosion, and the Hokage residence flares up like a thin match, taking with it the secrets of the forbidden techniques that were kept in ancient scrolls within the walls of the stately mansion. When the last screams subsided, and the rain that began hastily began to put out the conflagration into which Konoha had turned, a mysterious figure rushed like lightning into the center of the disaster. Raindrops wash a tired face, blissfully set up to the sky. He throws his clasped hands behind his head and mockingly examines each of the 5 stone faces. The empty eye sockets of the Hokage look sadly at the ruins of the once mighty leaf, and as if the sky itself hears their grief, bursting out with another roar. "I'm sorry, Dad," the words that escaped my lips are drowned in the rain. "I'm sorry for your trampled greatness." A mischievous blue light appeared in the palm of his hand and, spinning like a top, rapidly began to increase in size. The guy raises his hand above his head, holding back the torn power and, flashing his eyes ringed with iris, mercilessly launches a giant sphere into the proud rock. Opening my eyes, I jump out of bed. My body trembles violently as I pull back the sweat-soaked shirt that is clinging uncomfortably to my back. Bitterness on the tongue, but a complete mess in the head. The tiny mirror surface obediently reflects feverishly shining eyes. Running my fingers through my blonde hair, I convulsively cling to the fragments of an elusive dream. For me, as a person who rarely dreamed, it is unusual and therefore even more disturbing to observe such antics of the subconscious. Questions fill your head with a whirlwind, just have time to choose. Is Konoha really broken? Where was Fifth all this time? Did Sakura survive? Do I see the future? Why did the guy call the rock father if the guy was me? Noisily drawing in the air, I sit on the edge of the bed and, dropping my head in my hands, again plunge into the details of an unusual dream. Which of the 4, minus the 5th, because the concept of dad does not fit at all with the image of a harsh woman, did the person address? Remembering the years of life of each leader of the Hidden Leaf, adding to them a frightening external resemblance, which for some reason I did not notice before, the brain immediately gives the answer. So did I call the father of the 4th? A smirk stretched her lips at the realization of the mastery of the subconscious. It is necessary to shove everything into one colorful mirage so skillfully. Would my existence in Konoha be so insignificant if Minato himself were my father? It is ridiculous to believe in such absurdity. Nevertheless, some kind of suspicious doubt settles on the subcortex of the brain from the understanding that in every joke there is a grain of truth, and in every dream there is a grain of reality. Unable to fight any more reflections, I leave the walls of the room. Closing the door behind me, I find myself in a long stone corridor. On the wall near each door, apparently hiding the rooms of the gang members, there is a torch burning, in the light of which I, as the new owner of the coolest dojutsu, have no special need. Without incident, I get to the stairs at the end of the corridor, and I no longer step so quickly with my bare feet on the steps. Standing up, I squint my eyes at the long-awaited sunlight streaming through the only small window. Quickly bypassing all the household utensils, which are filled with a comfortably settled spacious room, I rush with lightning to a single goal. Almost tearing out the door with its hinges, I find myself on the street and time stops. The green sea is overflowing. The saturation of the colors is almost painful, but I stubbornly continue to soak up the sight of the wild. Never before in or near Konoha have I seen such a dense forest jungle. The smells of the thicket immediately mix together, charging with a thirst for life no weaker than what I felt when I was buried under the water. The sun slyly looks down, making its way through the thickets of greenery that reliably hides the entrance to the cave, and gentle grass pleasantly tickles your bare feet. The idyll is broken by an annoying sensation that has appeared, previously unknown to me. The anticipation of something that will happen any minute, strains, and makes you clench your palms into fists. I put my left foot forward, preparing to repel an invisible attack, almost felt by the skin at a distance of several tens of meters. Feverish heartbeats echo in the head, confusing and disturbing sensations. Something alien is approaching me, filled with a dangerous force, which is why the clumsy hands covering the body are covered with goosebumps. What are you doing here? A voice is heard, and, noticing its owner, I exhale convulsively. Weakness flooded through his body, caused by an unplanned surge of adrenaline. His blood reserves are now definitely enough for a couple of days. I need it to clear out. For some reason, it seems to me that you are trying to cowardly escape, the guy remarks rudely, without taking his mocking lilac eyes. We have agreed. So why should I run? I boil up in response to such an attack by pain. The guy watches intently, as if deciding something for himself. The clash of identical as two drops of water dojutsu, again this silent struggle for superiority. I cross my arms over my chest, trying, on the one hand, not to succumb to his provocations, on the other hand, to protect myself from the newly appeared ghostly feeling of someone else's presence in my head. With a soft step, he comes closer and stops at arm's length. There is a significant difference in height between us, which forces me to tilt my head back without interrupting our peepers. Don't leave the shelter alone, the guy says indifferently, for your own safety. Carelessly pushing me aside, Pain enters the room, not closing the door behind him. I understand the hint and dutifully follow it, suppressing the growing wave of discontent inside. Can't I stand up for myself? In the end, it was like that all my life, and no one stubbornly stuffed myself into a nanny. But after all, it can be understood, because having missed that valuable cargo on the very first day, and even so ridiculously, a dangerous and formidable organization of seasoned criminals risks being ridiculed by the whole world. It's not so much about reputation, but about the value of my person. As I wait for further instructions, I want to know where everyone else is. Why did I wake up in a cave without a single soul? Again, isn't it too risky to leave a prisoner alone with open exits? Payne sits at the head of a large wooden table that takes up a good half of the room and looks at me intently. He is dressed in a standard form of organization, which means that he solved some kind of criminal affairs on which the gang stands like a monolith. Clasped pale hands with neat crimson nails stretched out in front of him, allowing me to shamelessly examine the massive purple ring on my thumb. Interestingly, another distinguishing feature of the group, or does he like to take care of himself so much? I would not say that the young man looks like a fashionista. You felt me, didn't you? Payne's intonation makes it easy to understand that he already knows the answer. From him now and then breathes cold confidence, which is why, being next to a guy, you feel older than your years. Not having time to open my mouth to answer, I am again filled with the feeling of someone else's approach. Frowning, I squint at the interlocutor, whose thin lips were touched by a smile. The cloak rustles softly as he raises his hand and points her to the door, urging me to step aside. I recoil sharply and catch steps, the owner of which is clearly not in the spirit. A second later, the door opens with such a bang that I involuntarily jump on the spot. The tall guy storms into the room, angrily tossing a huge red scythe with 3 blades at the entrance. He is wearing the notorious cloak, buttoned only halfway, which is why the whole world can calmly look at the muscles of the press, gently rolling under the light skin of a stranger. A silver pendant in the form of a triangle caught in a ring dangles from the chest. How I hate this sinner! The guy literally roared, fiercely sparkling with crimson eyes, another joint entry, and I will rip out his guts, I swear by Jashin. Sniffing discontentedly, he ruffled his slick, ash-colored hair, becoming like an offended, disheveled boy. The orange ring on the index finger does not fit with the green nails at all, and in general, looking at this guy, one gets the feeling that he is the very essence of the world's inconsistency, a fatal violation of the universal balance. He had just raised his voice, albeit in a fit of anger, at the leader of the gang, and the mysterious sinner was clearly not lucky enough to cause the fury of a nervous creature. Finally, the young man notices me, awkwardly shifting from one foot to the other near Payne. The ruby eye lights up as he crosses his arms in front of him, covering his massive chest. Where are the others? Payne asks, delicately touching the bridge of his nose with his fingertips. I'm not their nanny, they know the way, the stranger throws, not taking his eyes off me, in which the devils staged a pogrom. And what fate brought such a beauty into our hole? The greasy grin of the scoundrel almost knocked the ground out from under his feet. The chest is immediately filled with righteous fire, the palms are clenched into fists, and the body tenses in anticipation of the brewing fight. How dare he laugh at me? There have been enough humiliations in my life without him, so am I really forced to endure such an attitude even now? No, not from this scoundrel. How dare you? I don't recognize my voice, trembling with impatience and irritation. Other people's lips smoothly stretch into a satisfied smile of a cat that has eaten sour cream, which teases even more. If the Ninetails reacts the same way to every person, then we must give him credit for his steely patience. Don't boil, baby, he raises his palms conciliatorily, noticing my impulse to pounce with his fists. My name is Haydn, and, as far as I understand, now we will live as one big friendly family. He is clearly amused by the situation, he literally bathes in my anger. What a scoundrel! Just one word, one twist of the mouth, and I'm lost in a veil of anger. The blood is pulsing in my head, which makes me think that the skull is about to burst. And the guy with character, Hayden confidently declares, looking at the red-haired quiet one, "We will definitely make friends. Naruto and I are going to practice," Pain says, ignoring the insolent remark. He gets up and, without paying attention to me, goes out into the street. Looking over at Hayden, I get another mocking raspberry-colored eye. His fingers slowly trace the tread plate at his neck with the emblem of the hidden hot springs village crossed out. Defiantly grunting, I quicken my step after the departing Pain, easily catching up with him. "What type?" I ask angrily, unable to keep up appearances or even keep my cool. "How can you be calm when something like this lives next to you?" Hayden, the guy, only briefly responds, gently stepping on the grass. He respects only his god, so get used to such attacks. Those who disagreed with him lost their hearts long ago. For some reason, I doubt that by deprivation of hearts he means unrequited girlish love for a stately bandit. Is this lunatic so powerful that even a Rinnegan wearer wouldn't risk teaching him a few lessons in good manners? Or is he such a valuable member of this little criminal world that they are willing to put up with childish antics? And what kind of god is this, which pacifies the burning character of the criminal? Chapter 6. We make our way through the forest undergrowth in oppressive silence. The lair was left somewhere far behind. Apart from the psycho living next door, the thought of the Ninetales disturbs me. The redhead made it clear that he knew about me. Does this mean that I'm just delaying something inevitable? But then what is the point of him training me, making me stronger, if in this way one day I can not only protect the fox, but also question the very existence of their gang? I come to my senses in a spacious clearing, obviously made by a human hand. Surrounded by trees, hidden from prying eyes, it is ideal for a training base. Pain stops in her heart, gently lowering herself onto the grass. The sun gently caresses the copper hair. A pale hand gestures for me to take a seat beside me, which I do. "What are you worried about?" Without preludes, the guy begins, closing his eyes. "You know what I am, don't you?" I ask, still doubting the correctness of this step. "Everyone knows about it." "Of course," short and clear. Under the ribs, a roaring rumble is heard, urging me to get up, spit on the agreement and run, sparkling heels. "So, does that worry you?" The voice is heard again. "What do you think?" I instantly flare up, filled with the desire to somehow hush up the horror growing from within. They have already come to the village. They, Blue and brother Uchiha, hinted that they needed foxes. "How will you explain this to me?" Pain only remains silent, and treacherous goosebumps gallop through the skin. Have I fallen into the trap of my own naivety into believing that someone actually cares about me? "Looks like you're going to pay for your stupidity now, you gullible fool. There is no point in denying that we need what is sealed in you," the redhead says coolly, turning to me, "and we will get it sooner or later. But until we figure out how to extract the bijou safely for your life, you will learn to develop the power of the eyes. Why are you taking care of me?" I jump to my feet screaming, unable to understand his behavior. "If you pull the damn fox out, I will die. There is no safe way, only death. And I'm not going to die here, do you hear?" Having spit out all this in a calm face, I turn around and run deep into the forest. Branches bitingly beat in the face, leaving scratches, mixing blood with unbidden tears. Another betrayal. And what, in fact, did I expect from a dirty bunch of thugs? He became attached to an impregnable deity, believed in his nobility. It's his own fault. Stumbling on another cobblestone, I fall backwards on the cold ground. His bare foot was immediately engulfed in a painful heat, but now is not the best time for dressings and first aid. 2 feet are in front of my nose as soon as I kneel. Could the power of the Rinnegan grant such speed that it caught up with me in an instant? Despite the throbbing in my aching foot, I jump up and boldly get into a fighting stance. The swollen face immediately stretches in surprise. It's not him. More precisely, it is he, but, at the same time, a stranger. The same tall stature and purple eyes, the same pale skin and crossed-out tread, but something about him is different. Long loose strands with a reddish tint softly cover large facial features. "Stop it, Naruto," the man orders in Pain's cold voice. My hands are shaking, and I seem to be losing the last bit of self-control. Sticky horror flowed through the body, settling somewhere in the stomach. The shirt was soaked with cold sweat. "You don't want to believe in yet another betrayal?" the long-haired man says heartily, and rightly so. "Nothing threatens you within these walls. Cast aside your doubts and follow me." "But how?" I just ask in a trembling voice. He couldn't guess the reason for my panic so cleverly. After all, I should be afraid of the extraction of bijou, and not the fact that traitors are spinning around all my life. "I am one of the 6 paths," the redhead concludes my thought, "and my specialty is mind reading and soul extraction. So there are 6 more." "But how?" "It turns out that I can do all these things." "But how?" I wrap my arms around myself and squint doubtfully at my interlocutor. If there are 6 of them, and the other 9 on top, then I still have no chance of getting out of here alive, right? The long-haired man smirks faintly as he turns around and heads for the abandoned clearing. All I can do is burn a hole in his cloak and follow. What is he? And how to call it? It's embarrassing that I don't even feel it in my head. Or is panic to blame? Call me pain, for we are a single whole, the guy throws over his shoulder. I can't call you by that name. My path is called Nintendo, if you like, the redhead says after a moment of silence. We climb to a clearing, in the center of which Pain himself still sits. Was he so reluctant to pick up the little crybaby that he sent a replacement? I go up to the guy and plop down opposite, defiantly pouting my lips. Eyes are closed, and an aura of calmness literally stings from a kilometer away. Nintendo stops behind Pain, repeating his action. The 2 copper tops go into meditation with abandon, obviously enjoying the warm sun, while I stare at them in bewilderment. Where are the promised workouts? Close your eyes, Naruto, one of them snorts in annoyance. I hope there won't be a katana sticking out of my chest the next time I open them. Closing my eyelids, I begin to fall into the cycle of smells and sensations, the forest coolness, the touch of the wind, the warmth of the sun, the softness of the grass. The hearing immediately amplifies to such an extent that I can practically hear the rustling of the wings of a butterfly and the cawing of a crow somewhere outside the forest. The movement of the whole world, the whole planet suddenly echoes in one head. I put my palms on the ground and feel in my gut the eagerness of the flame, the stability of the soil, the changeability of the wind, the fickleness of the water and the zeal of lightning. The power entering the body through the fingertips is intoxicating, and in this moment I feel as alive as I have never been before. Charges are raging in the body, demanding an early exit. Do you feel it? As if I hear a voice through the veil, your body is filled with natural energy. You gain control over the 5 elements of nature. Do not resist them, accept the gift. The melodious voice soothes, relaxing the mind. Perhaps, but only perhaps, I was wrong about him. So I want to believe him, myself and the whole world. So you want to become something more than an ordinary piece of muscle strung on chakra threads. And whether I will become this big depends only on me. A strong impulse from within makes you come to your senses. Opening my eyes, I see a dark forest surrounding the clearing, and still smoldering grass beside me. Burning notes slip through the night air. How long have I been here? There is not a single soul around, and only tingling warmth in the whole body and pleasant fatigue prove that this is not another too realistic dream. I carefully rise from the ground and, brushing off my trousers, I notice that there is no pain in the bruised foot. Not even a bruise left. Quickly feeling the face with delight, I note that the scratches have also disappeared. Yes, I'm not vulnerable. I wonder if I can now spit fire like Sasuke. If yes, then I will roast his pride at the first meeting. A loud rumbling of the stomach urges me to find food as soon as possible, and I move into dense thickets. Would like to know where to go next. May they all fail. Time to test new skills, right? Leaning down on the grass, I lower my palm in front of me. Feelings are immediately confused, suggesting in which direction the sleeping bird fell from the branch, and in which direction the cricket chirps. Gathering all my strength, I try to imagine the faces of acquaintances, concentrating on their location. And now, success. Hayden's vile voice is heard from afar. He laughs obscenely loudly surrounded by several people. A shiver passes through my palm, and it becomes clear to me where to go next. Smiling, with a light soul, I trot towards the lair. Once at the very door, I meet with a stupid question, to knock or not, but the next rumble of a hungry stomach decides everything for me and, almost knocking out the long-suffering door, I tumble inside. 3 pairs of eyes, including an annoying crimson one, turn to me inquiringly. And what should they say? I smile and scratch my head awkwardly. All are dressed at home, without their terrible cloaks, terrifying and panicking in the souls of random travelers. A heavy silence hung over the table, stuffed with all sorts of dishes. And here's our guy. Hayden announces patronizingly, defusing the situation just in time. How was the training, baby? Gratitude is immediately replaced by a wave of discontent. Do these jokes come with him in the same kit? Nevertheless, inspired by new achievements, I put my hands on my hips and laugh insolently in response. There is nowhere better. And you will start getting paid for your words very soon. I declare loudly, measuring the guy's toned body with a look. Finally, at least someone will kill you, the unknown person said with a grin, turning his broad back to me. On the shoulder blades and just below are 2 pairs of eerie colored masks, and the swarthy body is very often covered with neat seams. The man is so tall that he seems like a giant surrounded by his colleagues. He fumbles on the table, rustling some kind of bags, and constantly throws aside his loose dark hair. "Shut up, Kakuzu, or I'll kill you." Haydn fumes, pointing at the giant. "The gut is thin, Jashin's sycophant," he replies sternly, turning around with a plate of hot noodles in his hands. Appearance: Kakuzu is clearly not for a weak character, a mouth sewn with large stitches and bright green irises against a background of black, matching hair, Iskara. He squints unkindly towards the interlocutor, who, apparently, has long been accustomed to such a look. Haydn's face turned purple with anger, and his hands clenched into fists. He jumps up, knocking over his chair, and takes 2 steps towards Kakuzu, who is a good half a head taller. "How dare you, infidel! Die for your blasphemous words!" With screams, the guy raises his fist for a blow. Pain suddenly appears and, grabbing the priest by the wrist, throws him back. Kakuzu just smirks and sits down at the table, slowly starting to eat. Haydn flares up with a stream of foul language, such that I have never heard in my life. All this disgrace is interrupted by the quiet, but hard voice of the redhead. "You found your way back, commendable." He turns to me, "Join if you're hungry. You don't have to repeat it twice." Joyfully I run up to the table and swallow hot noodles. Food warms the insides, delivering unearthly pleasure. Having instantly finished off the portion, I notice a third person sitting opposite. A very young boy, almost a boy, looks at the world with foggy gray-brown eyes, in the depths of which indifference to everything that happens is splashing every now and then. He looks at me for a long time, without blinking, like a lifeless corpse. Her tousled reddish hair doesn't have the brassy sheen of Payne's. Through the mesh shirt I notice a puppet body assembled from separate parts, and a circle with a hieroglyph is built into the left side of the chest. Don't they have their own bodies? One is somehow wired, the second is completely assembled in pieces. It can be seen that they live hard in the underworld. Haydn leaves the room, still muttering curses at Kakuzu. After him, the last one, having emptied his plate, also left the living room. An awkward silence hung over the 3 heads. The red-haired leader sits down on the boy's left hand, not at all embarrassed by the silence. To be honest, I would really like to see this powder keg named Haydn come back and defuse the situation. "So what are our plans?" I ask as nonchalantly as possible. "I'll be busy in the morning." "Think for yourself who you will spend time with." Nodding, the guy answers in a businesslike manner, "By the time I arrive, you should learn at least one new technique. Can I train with Nintendo?" Voicing the question, out of the corner of my eye I notice a smirk in the dull eyes of the boy. Does he think I didn't notice? "I will be busy in the morning," the young man repeated patiently. "I introduced you to the organization the day before, so you can ask anyone to teach you new things." Payne nodded in the direction of the boy, who was still looking at me impudently. "I don't like this little one." A goofy and pompous expression, just like Sasuke's. "No." With a huge Kakuzu, it's scary to be alone, with Conan it's embarrassing. Is only Haydn left? After cleaning up after myself, I thank the people sitting at the table and go to my room. Falling on the bed, I start to think. And who should I go to? Maybe Sasuke's brother will do. After all, he is the indirect culprit of awakening my Rinnegan, and I am grateful to him. Technically, we even know each other. After all, he came to Konoha for me. True, it is worth omitting the reason for visiting the village. Reluctantly, I make a decision. Let there be another uchiha in my life. The Uchiha are a clan of fire with a Sharingan at the ready, and, therefore, a carrier of valuable knowledge and unique experience from which you can try to benefit. Chapter 7. A huge cage suppresses its massiveness. The steel bars save me from the huge bloody eyes of the beast. Squinting, the fox looks at me lazily without the usual hatred, but with a certain drop of satisfaction. He completely emerges from the shadows, and 9 powerful tails are revealed to my gaze, demonstrating the strength of the bijou. The fox raises its paws and squeezes the rods, grasping them tenaciously with its clawed fingers. The wool is glossy and casts of copper, but the creature itself breathes cold, once again reminding that it was created not from flesh and blood, but from pure energy. "Did you decide to visit me?" grumbles the fox, whose voice echoes through the void of space. I keep silent in response, because this is the place I would like to visit, the last thing in the world. The 9-tailed sly one only knows how to hurl curses and insults, but the worst part is that I'm wrong. For hundreds of years, the damn beast has seen so much, learned so many techniques, combined with its essence, becoming the perfect weapon in the right hands. The power of these eyes is not so easy to pacify. The 9-tails continues. "I'm already starting to think that you are not as pathetic as you seem at first glance. I didn't know that you could say something sensible," I openly declare in response, crossing my arms over my chest. "No, I really rushed to conclusions." The beast immediately bristled, waving its tails irritably. "Are you really so weak-minded that you believe every rogue you meet? Yes, I believe, in this space, irritation is transmitted with enviable speed, at least they can make me stronger. Unlike you. You dare to think that I should teach you. An insignificant body in which I am forced to languish for years. It's not my fault. I yell at the demon, unconsciously approaching the cold bars. If you want to know, your existence is not very pleasant either. You ruined my life, but still every time you repeat about what a nonentity I am. But who else is the insignificance of the two of us? You can create a powerful carrier for yourself and enjoy our common power. But as soon as I got a power much more dangerous than old frayed tales, you immediately showed up, grinning rather. Worthless scoundrel. A familiar growl, filled with the wrath of the underworld, immediately breaks his head. The demon begins to dissolve along with the prison, and I jump out of bed. These drowsiness have already become so habitual that it makes no sense to dwell on them for days on end. There is only one person sitting in the living room, a blue colossus that once threatened to leave me without legs. Shark face, covered with shiny blue scales, for a long time crashed into the memory. Noticing me, the man stretched his lips into a wide grin, exposing a row of sharp teeth. Another subhuman in the company. It's time to tie with surprise at the sight of these freaks. But I remember you. Loudly clapping his hands, the bandit announced, the same Jinchuriki, from Konoha. Since we have to cooperate, Hoshigaki Kisame is at your service. The offender made a bow, clearly enjoying himself. So this Kisame has a strong desire to make friends? No matter how. Your tail has been pressed down hard if you are talking to me so nicely, I blurt out in the face of the fish, without having time to think. Be careful with your words, little one. Kisame's bluish cheekbones played on Kisame's bluish cheekbones. We don't want you to accidentally disappear without a trace, right? I raise my hands in a conciliatory gesture and walk over to the table, taking a seat across from Kisame. The colorless beads of the eyes now and then follow my every movement. Where are you from, Kisame? Without taking my eyes off him, I ask a question. What made you fall into this hole? Why is there such a keen interest all of a sudden? The man chuckles, squinting in disbelief. I'm interested in learning about the past of the people with whom fate brought me together. I answer the question somewhat honestly, glancing over the gills on my large face. Hidden mist. Hoshigaki closes his eyes, clearly not enjoying sharing personal information with me. I am one of the 7 swordsmen. I think you remember Samahata. But my reasons for joining the organization are purely personal, sorry. I'll tell you one thing, boy, this place is far more cruel than the whole world outside the lair. So don't roll your lip too much. Why do you need Jinchuriki? After all, I am far from the first such person in your life. I ask a question after a long pause. You've got it right. Although, personally, I would prefer to see less of you devil-possessed scum. Kisame casually ruffles his black buzzard hair, but an order is an order. We need you and others like you. Someone's quiet steps made the man bite his garrulous tongue before he could give out the essence of the mysterious plan. And to whom it was impatient to show up at such a moment? I turn around and glare at the newcomer. But the dissatisfaction is immediately replaced by a wary interest, when the familiar features of the face turn out to be in front of me. The navy blue suit emphasizes a perfectly straight back, jet hair is pulled back into a ponytail, and the cold corners of the eyes catch a glimpse of Kisame and me. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that the stranger is the same Uchiha Itachi. After making himself some tea, the boy sat next to Kisame, cupping his mug with his pale hands. Again, lacquer on the fingers, this time purple, and the iconic ring with a red stone. A grown-up face and stripes stretching from eyebrows to the very cheeks, sharply distinguish him from Sasuke, although every action of the guy is imbued with the elegance inherent in the Uchiha clan. With his appearance, the temperature in the room clearly dropped by a couple of degrees, plunging those present into a cold-blooded calm. The door swings open, and Payne's body rushes into the room, falling face down in front of us. Instead of any attempt by the leader to get to his feet, all I see is a crimson pool of blood rapidly growing in size. My pupils dilate in horror as the essence of what is happening reaches me. I jump up from my seat and like lightning I find myself in front of a young man. The cloak is soaked through with blood, and when I raise my red head, chilling fear binds my body, squeezing my lungs in a vice. Hot blood is gushing from the black holes where the eyes used to be. Trembling hands drop the corpse. I raise my eyes full of tears and see the people around me. The 5th Hokage, Hitaki, Uchiha, Haruno, Irika, and everyone else are vying to say something. Sasuke sits down beside me with a joyful smile on his ugly, pretty face, brotherly squeezing my shoulder. When did he get back? And for what? Someone's hands reach out to Payne's corpse, trying to take it away, and in a second it fills me with animal fury. Fire seethed in his veins, burning the ability to think rationally as he went. The heart starts to dance, painfully hitting the ribs. With one blow, I throw 4 into the bushes, and with a powerful roar, I knock the rest off their feet. The energy of the demon craves revenge and blood. A veil of rage covers his eyes, and a sensation of blood appears in his mouth when the first desperate cry of horror flies from someone else's lips. Naruto, I'll make time for you today. Itachi's calm voice pulls me out of my nightmare. On the other hand, imperturbable bandits sit peacefully. Where are the dead? And the blood, and the corpse, everything disappeared. But I killed them all myself. The heart has not yet calmed down, furiously pushing the blood through the heated body. The Uchiha looks intently, as if examining an unusual animal he has just spotted. And only now it dawns on me that all this is his tricks. Uchiha with their damn illusions will drive me to the grave. Under my confused gaze, Itachi stands up, throws something to Hoshigaki and, grabbing my elbow, quickly leads me out of the room. You killed everyone who came to save you, the Uchiha says as soon as we got to the training field. In the end, they accepted you, risked their lives for you, but you still destroyed everyone. Why? But they killed Pain. I answer the question decisively, the only one who can teach me the tricks of the Rinnegan. Moreover, the only one who accepted me, even if I'm just another target of your mysterious mission. Silence reigns between us, only wild birds chirp carelessly in the bowels of the forest. The sun gently caresses the earth, and the warm wind slowly runs through the tender grass. Without changing in the face, the brunette looks exactly into the eyes. Why do you believe him? The voice is heard again. Is there really nothing keeping you in the village? Only he can teach me how to use my eyes, I stubbornly answer, and he also offers shelter, food, and even a meager drop of care. And what does the village give me, except for constant poking and ridicule? Everyone has the right to make a mistake. The world is too fragile to hold a grudge against. Naruto, what can you understand? I can't restrain myself, clasping my hands. All my damn life I've been defending my right to be an ordinary person, an ordinary child. I hate them all. I wanted to help people, I wanted to help your brother, but what did I get in return? He bled my blood and threw it to the fish. I would never see the sun again if it wasn't for Pain. The Uchiha looks away, and something in him flips as soon as I touch Sasuke. A thin face does not let emotions through, but my eyes are filled with such longing that I suddenly feel a wave of pity for the criminal who massacred his own family. Now he does not seem to be the formidable genius of his disappeared clan, but an ordinary boy, whose lot has fallen too heavy a burden. Itachi turns around and stands in the center of the field, seals the seals with lightning speed and releases one large fireball into the sky. A perfectly even sphere of flame takes off and, having scattered into millions of bright sparks, dissolves in the air. Repeat, the guy orders shortly, folding the hand seals again. Surprised by such a sharp change in the inner mood of the guy, I carefully repeat his movements. With each subsequent gesture of the hands, warmth builds up inside, turning into real heat. A volcano literally grows in the stomach, ready to erupt a stream of red-hot lava. The last movement of the palms, and the mouth was filled with flames, instantly burning the tongue and palate. Heat circulates in my throat, blocking the air from my lungs, and I start to choke. What to do? I toss my head and spit fire into the sky. Hot sparks immediately scorch the lips and fall clumsily to the ground. Instead of perfect technique, blue smoke escapes from the nose and mouth. I lean on my knees and quickly clear my throat. The throat burns mercilessly, as does the oral cavity. My eyes water from the abundance of smoke around me, which makes me clumsily rub them with my fists. Disgusting, I hear the mentor's voice, once again. But where is he? I turn my head, looking for a man. The field is deserted, and the Uchiha himself quietly disappeared into the shade of the trees that surround the clearing. The guy sits with his leg folded under him, and waits for another attempt. Come on, Naruto, get it together. Uchiha must not see your pitiful inclinations. You're the owner of the Rinnegan, after all. So pull yourself together and prove to him that you are not a blunder. Frowning, I fold the seals again. Body warm again. I toss my head and, ignoring the intense burning sensation, tears and lack of air, exhale flames into the sky with all my might. The ball flew up, not massive enough and dangerous. Compared to Itachi's technique, it looks so poor that anger grows inside at his own worthlessness. The Uchiha repeats the phrase loudly and I try again. At the cost of a burnt throat, tongue, and hands, and a good couple of dozen tries, a perfect sphere burst out of me, gracefully disappearing into the sky. With a squeal of delight, I fall on my back, allowing myself a moment's respite. The serene azure sky rivets to itself, and the earth obligingly envelopes the body with coolness. I lower my palms and let the natural energy flow into me, restoring my strength. That's enough for today. Itachi stops beside him, looking at me condescendingly. You've done a good job, but it's time for us to go back. The road to the lair passes in silence, but the silence does not depress. but creates a special atmosphere that exists only in the presence of an unusual young man. Although Itachi's past is drowned in blood, he does not seem like a disgusting psycho-father killer. Moreover, he left Sasuke alive, which leads to the idea of some kind of brotherly tenderness, which he carefully keeps in his heart. Why does Sasuke want you dead? I break the silence, firing this question directly at the forehead of Itachi, who is softly stepping on the ground. He must want it, he replies grimly. Because of the clan. I keep pushing. Why did you kill them? I advise you not to meddle in other people's affairs, Naruto. Despite the stony face, the guy's voice makes it clear that I have approached the line that has no place for strangers. Taking the hint, I immediately close my mouth. When we open the door, we see Konan intently slicing fruit. The girl glances at us as she returns to her work. The uchiha immediately retires to his quarters, obviously not in the mood for third-party conversations. I drag myself to the table and thump loudly on the chair. How was the session? The blue-haired woman asks, placing a plate of fruit slices on the table. Itachi taught me how to shoot fireballs. I proudly announce to the girl, reaching for a piece of apple. Now I'm more useful. Konan is silent, holding back a smile. Satisfaction flashes through the amber, and, having wished me a pleasant appetite, the girl leaves the room. Having chewed the treat, I rather stretch on the chair. Outside the door, the world slowly plunges into evening twilight. Thoughts in a lazy mass froze in my head, allowing me to patch up my state of mind a little. The feeling of someone else's presence brings me back to reality. Pain and Ninjendo come up to the table and sit opposite them in sync. I'm lost between two bizarre pairs of eyes. The guys are clearly in no hurry, continuing the silence. I think you have fulfilled my request and are ready to demonstrate the result. Pain finally speaks. There is still a theoretical part on the use of the Rinnegan planned for today, so be ready to listen carefully. Come and get down in front of me, the guy demands, catching a glimpse of my new skill. Without taking my eyes off the concentrated pale face, I lower myself opposite. Assuming the lotus position, completely copying the position of the redhead, I await further instructions. Did you know that a skilled ninja doesn't need dojutsu to understand his opponent's train of thought? Of course, I would also say that dojutsu was completely overestimated. For some reason, I doubt that any Haiden or Kisame have such a skill. Umbu agents are trained in psychology, which allows them to successfully calculate any actions of the enemy, the guy says calmly, without opening his eyes. Moreover, they are trained to hide their intentions well. That is why you should not be surprised if one day you cannot break into other people's thoughts. If one of the greatest Rinnegan skills is available to ordinary people, can its other benefits be learned so easily? I ask loudly, clasping my hands. It's not that simple, Naruto. His eyes widen sharply, glaring at me so that I can clearly feel his manipulation in my head. If they have to learn this for many years, you just need to want to. Goosebumps ran down my spine as I realized I couldn't turn away or even look down. He literally forces me to look into his eyes, not allowing me to take even an extra breath. A cold hand gently descends on the top of my head. A second, two, and incredible weakness envelopes the body. The body, which has become so foreign and heavy, suddenly ceases to belong to me. Thoughts evaporate, and I literally feel the constriction of the pupils. Everything is covered with fog, even the copper hair of the person sitting opposite loses its brightness in an instant. The thought that I don't remember him or my name cuts gently into my molten consciousness like a hot knife, desperately calling for a reaction and some kind of action. The hand abruptly returns, and I seem to wake up. Like a drowning man, I breathed with my mouth wide open, again feeling the frequent beats of my heart. The body began to tremble, and all the memories immediately returned to my head. Must not be the most pleasant feeling, a voice behind him said, and I only pulled my soul a few centimeters away. With a trembling hand, I touched my forehead, my hairline, and ran my 5 fingers over my head to the very back of my head. The mouth is dry, the trembling is not appeased. Glancing behind my back, I see the long figure of Ninjendo. Even though his gaze does not express anything at all, he is watching carefully, noticing the slightest changes in my condition. Obviously, the level of control of his own Rinnegan is sky high. The cold wind sobers me up, finally tearing me out of semi-consciousness. Raising my head to the sky, I notice in surprise black thunderclouds hanging low above us. The first drops, driven by another gust of wind, fell to the ground. Today you felt the unique possibilities of dojutsu in your own skin, Pain summed up, smoothly rising from his seat. Remember these sensations and analyze them until you understand how to use them if necessary. His quiet voice began to be lost in the noise of rain falling from the sky in an endless stream. Somewhere in the distance, a rumble of thunder was heard. The guys simultaneously turn around and move away towards the lair. But I remain sitting in a cold rain puddle, exposing my face to cold drops. Chapter 8. Exhausting workouts gradually turned into a routine, addictive. Days are imperceptibly replaced by nights, and the time of my stay in the company of criminals is increasing. The first awkward days fade in memory, like bruises and abrasions on the body. Under Payne's strict guidance, my abilities are growing exponentially. I spent a lot of time, but I was able to master mind reading, bringing the skill to automatism. The first information I got with the Rinnegan was Kakuzu's bills and Hayden's prayers. Then I began to take information out of the heads of the rest of the bandits. The secrets of puppeteer Sasori and demolitionist Deidara became available to me, even the confusion in the dark-haired head of Kisame turned into an open book. History is silent about the unpleasant moments when the guy spotted me for espionage, but how else to get experience, right? Itachi's thoughts are hidden behind the curtain of his years in the ANBU. The unit clearly has a vested interest in keeping their secrets if they place such mental blocks on their men's heads. Payne himself took care of Conan, eliminating even the slightest possibility of my influence on the girl. Once he evasively threw that the founders of the organization store too dangerous information. One morning Payne announced that learning the Rinnegan techniques would not have the desired effect until I mastered the techniques of the various elements. This news infuriated me, because not the elements, but the dojutsu with its secrets are at the head of the table. But the inaccessibility and coldness of the mentor very quickly eradicated my habit of whining, so I came to grips with training. I've lost track of the days spent meditating in the center of the training field. The energy of the elements bubbled up from the ground, filling with life. Yet thoughts of the future blurred the perfect picture of my present. What will I do next, having learned to control the power of the eyes? In the village, I am probably considered dead or fled, or even a traitor, so there is no grandiose and tearful return home. Is this where my home is now? That day, the sunset was blood red, which made the world seem so unreal. Immersed in the depths of consciousness, I keenly felt the nature around, absorbing its elements. At such moments, my mind was in some kind of harmony with the universe, allowing me to temporarily stop heavy thoughts about life's difficulties. An alien, but rather familiar chakra suddenly intertwined softly into the energy flow of the environment. I slowly opened my eyes and stared at the incredible sunset. Having lived so much time under the same roof, I easily recognized the person. Itachi walked slowly, knowing exactly the way. Soft footsteps sounded behind him, and he sank down beside her. Incomprehensible sensations stirred inside, and I looked suspiciously at the guy. Our first meeting made it clear that he was not in the mood for a friendly wave. So why did the Uchiha suddenly drag himself behind me at night looking? The only question I'm interested in, a deep voice said, what happened to Sasuke? And this question, which the brunette faced for several sleepless nights, became the starting point of our peculiar communication. I can't call it friendship, because the images of friends, their voices and mannerisms are not imprinted in my head so clearly. He seemed to me a cold stone, incapable of any feelings and emotions, but on that day in front of me again was a small black-eyed boy, modestly looking away. Without any mind reading, just by one tone of voice, I understood the full extent of Itachi's concern for the troubled brother. And what should I have told him? Tell me in detail the touching relationship that connects me with the younger offspring of the clan. For some reason, I didn't want to pour this bile on the head of the former ANBU at all. Awkwardly touching my forehead, I gave the brunette a sparing story about Sasuke joining Orochimaru. Itachi didn't show it, but the trembling in his body echoed through me. At the bottom of Onyx's eyes flashed regret with an admixture of bitterness. Silently lowering his head, he fenced himself off from the world with black curls that fell on his face. I felt really sorry for Itachi. Is it worth it to lament over a worthless boy whose highest goal in life is to kill his brother? On a sudden impulse, I put my hand on his shoulder. For some reason, at that moment, this gesture seemed to me the only one available and correct. Taking a deep breath, I vividly imagined how natural forces come into me from the earth, then slowly flow into someone else's body, filling it with vigor. Itachi immediately looked up, looking at the drawings on my irises in disbelief. Evening slowly faded into night, hiding our figures in the darkness. The heat in my body suddenly interrupted my sleep. I look around the dark room and rise from the sodden bed. Clothes stick uncomfortably to the body, which continued to blaze with fire. His heart thuds against his ribs, and another drop of sweat runs down his temple. What's happening? Why is it so hot? Without having time to blink, I find myself in a clearing. Everything inside is seething, hands are shaking feverishly. I want to tear, throw, row the earth with my hands, but just to get rid of this feeling. What is happening to me? There is a hum in my head, vaguely reminiscent of an animal growl. Sweat flows down the body in streams, it darkens in the eyes. Hot, unbearably hot. Bringing my hand close to my face, I freeze in amazement. The palm is wrapped in a red aura, which creates a kind of claws on the fingertips. Now I understand why I feel so bad. Did the fox agree to teach me? A sharp pain pierces the body along the line of the spine, and I fall to my knees. The red light is so blinding that the Rinnegan doesn't help. I put my palms on the ground in search of saving energy, but salvation does not come. I squint behind my back and vaguely see 2 or 3 red tails. The body throbs, threatening to burst from tension. A painful heat that originates in the abdomen captures the lungs and moves through the trachea to the throat, taking away the last opportunity to breathe. With stiff fingers, I press the seals in an attempt to push the flames out of my body. I throw my head back and with all my might blow a fiery sphere into the night sky. Infused with demonic energy, red flames of unprecedented size explode high above the ground. The acrid smell of burning immediately hit his nose. I can't tell if it's clothes or skin already on fire. 10, 15, 30, losing count of the techniques I performed. In a normal state, I would have fallen dead from the exhaustion of energy and physical strength. The storm is still raging inside, forcing him to keep trying to calm him down. I close the seals again and unleash the flame. However, instead of balloons, the sky is filled with huge red dragons. Creatures squirm like living beings and disappear into the sky. Apparently, I made a mistake in adding the seals. The oversight cost more chakra, and I suddenly again feel the saving oxygen in my lungs. In any case, this technique slightly weakened the monstrous might. I bring my hand up to my face again and see blackened fingertips. The cover of the caudate methodically burns the body. It hurts even more. Something strong and tiring is urgently needed. I raise my hands for another call of fire, but I see that the skin begins to peel off in layers from the palms and forearms. The muscles are gradually exposed, and a black resinous layer appears around. What it is? Bones twist, I writhe in pain, rolling over onto my back. Everything begins to fade as I lower my head and notice the aggressive movement of the 5 tails. How are you, Uzumaki? Did you get what you wanted? The fox face is so close that I recoil in surprise. The tailed one sits in a cage, squinting his eyes cunningly, and grins pretty. Tails develop peacefully behind a huge red body. I look around nervously and am horrified. Body blistered, limbs blackened, threatening to never return to working order. In some places, scraps of tissue burned to the exposed remains of muscle. The smell of burning flesh makes the stomach constrict. It's strange that the insides are still functioning after all that I've been through. A pitiful sight, drawls the demon. You tried so hard to prove your worth as my host that I decided to believe it. And what is the result? I am forced to squeeze into a fried piece of presumptuous meat. In all these years, I have only once felt a grain of your chakra. So many years have passed in vain, and only now you decided to make up for the lost years of preparation at once? You won't be able to buy me off with handouts like that unless you want to burn with me in your own fire. Damn you with such teachings, damned demon. The Ninetails deftly raises its furry paw and plunges its claws into my bare shoulder. In a fit of rage, I did not notice how I was within his reach. Drops of blood rush down, turning the waters below us crimson. Paying no attention to it, the fox pulls me into his domain. Come on, make your dream come true and kill me. Just know that we will die here together. He is silent and, ramming my figure with an unblinking gaze, continues to drag me deeper into the dungeon. The bars were left behind, like any escape route. Once in complete darkness, he roughly pulls out his claws. I swear I can hear more blood spilling into the water. Nothing is visible around, pitch darkness. Only a quiet cold breath betrays someone else's presence. Somewhere high up, a faint light flickered. It gets lighter and brighter, and finally I can see everything that is around. The Ninetails surrounded us both, making it impossible to turn back. And where do I go in this state? For some reason, the thought of death does not terrify. At the very least, this creature will perish with me. Light is formed between his clawed paws, which he holds at the level of a wide sternum. Despite the unimaginable size, the fox turns out to be a rather bony creature. The outlines of the ribs and collarbones are literally striking. Wool, although it creates the illusion of volume, does not change the picture as a whole. I will make you respect my majesty, mortal, the Ninetail spits out with hatred, not looking up from the orb. You will suffer from your stubbornness. Feel the full weight of my power. Concentrating all the light in one paw, the demon swings and plunges it into my chest. There is a loud crack of ribs, then blood fills his mouth, escaping through his burned lips. A powerful blow throws me out of my subconscious. With difficulty I open my eyes and see the weak rays of the early sun gently touching the borders of the blackened field. The way of the sage is incomprehensible to mortals, my son. Truth is not seen with the eyes, but with the heart. So what do you see in those you let into your life? Will you be able to lean on your neighbor in difficult times? people have long forgotten my will. They use my creations to harm each other. Mankind is rotten, but you, true child of prophecy, can guide them on the right path. Time is sadly fleeting in this reality, but I managed to learn how to contemplate the world with my soul, and create it with my eyes. Now it's your turn to bring peace. So create a free world and breathe life into it. Chapter 9. The darkness around, someone's muffled voices and a lump of pain in the chest, the first thing I felt after the strong blow of the fox. Damn demon, what is he up to? He shouted something about strength, about the need to prove his ability to control it. How generous. And the fact that I almost died, is it just another endurance test? The second time I literally returned from the other world. Someone is tugging at my shoulder, but I can't see anything through the darkness. The pressure from outside is getting stronger. Now I'm stubbornly pounded on the cheeks. Do not touch me. I draw air into my chest for a loud cry, but then I choke on oxygen from the aching pain. Thank you, damn fox. And how long are they going to touch my body? I have little doubt that the Akatsuki found me unconscious and are now trying to revive me. What they don't know is that I'm kind of conscious already. It remains only to open your eyes. Cold water in large quantities immediately gives strength. I open my eyes and, ignoring the pain in my chest, sit up in place. How cold. All my clothes, hair and face are wet. Around are members of the organization, and in full force. Everyone has an informal and disheveled look. Apparently, I picked them up very early. A strong hand immediately sharply, with a loud pop, falls on my shoulder. It's Hayden's hand, who screams out loud how glad he is to see me. Conan kneels beside me and hugs me. She smells like something sweet. Itachi, smiling sincerely, reaches out and ruffles my hair. Surrounding people smile, rejoice at my return to this world. Even Pain tries to hide the excitement in his eyes. They all worried about me. My heart ached pleasantly in response to smiles and joy. I smile, absent-mindedly looking at the guys. Do the most notorious and dangerous criminals rejoice in me? I guess I'll never get used to it. A lump in the chest makes itself felt with a cutting pain. Between the ribs like hot iron. I put my hand on the source of discomfort and close my eyes. When will it end? The pulsation near the heart is quite noticeable. It's funny, unlike Kakuza now, I have more than one heart. But it's not a heart at all. My actions are not hidden from the eyes of the guys, and Itachi declares that I need peace in the lair. A good guy, understands me, for which I am extremely grateful to the uchiha. Eating and resting would not be superfluous at all. You're right Itachi, the leader says quietly, Naruto needs to rest. Please leave us. Itachi began to argue with the redhead, but with one gesture, Pain ordered everyone to leave. The uchiha looks at me with excitement, apparently considering the words of the leader of the organization. What is he afraid of? Come on, Itachi, it's okay, go with everyone. I smile reassuringly at the guy and nod my head in the direction of the departing people. The brunette lowers his eyes, squints at Pain from under his brows and leaves. What is he? Is something supposed to happen to me? Pain, with an impassive face, looks at the back of the retreating guy. What's happening? Turning his head towards me, the redhead comes a little closer and sits down on the ground. His purple eyes stare into your soul. Silent footsteps are heard behind. I don't turn around because the pain in my chest might come back. And even without sight, I feel that this is Nintendo. Doesn't Pain take my word for it? Why does he need a second body? The long-haired one is already standing behind me, and his quiet breathing. The smooth waves of his energy indicate that he is calm. In a month, I learned to capture the mood of other people. What happened? The leader immediately gets down to business. Do you want to know why I was unconscious? The fact that all my thoughts are in full view is very annoying. Yes, the redhead replies, I feel a change in you. As if something new appeared in your energy. Is it related to the nine-tailed fox? What is he striving for? Pain had never talked about my bijou before. But what scares me the most is that this conversation takes place in private. He looks at me expectantly. Of course, because Nintendo will pass on the information from my head to him. There is no point in lying to him, Kurama's chakra is in the air. Even I feel it. Yes, I answered the question, lowering my head. Tell me everything you saw. Pain continues the interrogation. With a loud growl, Kurama concentrated the light in one paw, swung it around, and plunged it into my chest with all his might. Breath immediately stopped, and blood flowed from his mouth. Now the pain in my arm, from the burns, from the twisted bones, looks like scratches to me compared to this one. It seems that the ribs are cracked, the lungs are barely getting oxygen, and the heart is pounding desperately somewhere deep in the damaged chest. This memory pops up on its own. Clearly the soul collector saw this. But Kyubi scratched me. Kurama pierced my hand with his claws, after which I lost consciousness, I say, while I clearly look into his eyes. Why do you need it? I need to know what happened to my student, the redhead replies and gets up from his seat. Are you sure you don't remember more? Of course, I answer instantly. You don't believe me? I just want to make sure you're being honest with me. The leader throws and offers me his hand. Pain helps me up. What should I do about this pain? Each step inflames a bright lump of pain in his chest. But to tell him this is to admit that I am still not completely frank with him. I need to talk to Itachi. He must know exactly what to do with it. Approaching the lair, I notice a crowd in identical raincoats. The entire organization is assembled and ready to go. I don't see Itachi among them, so he stayed at home. But where are they going? Haiden slyly smiles and winks at me, while the others dutifully look at Pain. Conan steps forward and gives the leader a cloak with red clouds. Ninjendo immediately disappears behind me. I'm not surprised, it's not the first time he's gone like this. Probably their own characteristics. Naruto, the head of Akatsuki addresses me, buttoning his cloak. We have to urgently leave. Organization affairs. Leaving you alone is dangerous to your own health. Knowing your affection for Itachi, I let him stay. I think he can help you sort out your problem, he adds in a voice that only I can hear. It was like I was struck by electricity. He knows about pain, and about Kurama, and about light. He heard everything. Calm down, you need to look good-naturedly, as always. Good luck to you guys, I say with a smile. I hope you bring something tasty. Well, how can you not love such a charm? Haiden screams with emotion. Sometimes it seems to me that the priest of Jashin does not know how to speak quietly. In any case, now the guy correctly noticed about my cute appearance. At least somehow helped break this awkward pause. To be honest, several people in the same raincoats look pretty intimidating. If I lived in the country and this gang came after me like this, I would prefer not to meet them. Well, or run away from Konoha. Looking at the backs of those leaving, I involuntarily think about this whole situation. The fox plunged a red-hot ball into me, which is the embodiment of his strength, then they began to interrogate me, at the same time reading my thoughts. Well. Shaking my head, I open the door and find myself in the living room. I need to finish all the bijou business, otherwise I will be exhausted with all this obscurity. Although, getting some of the fox's power is pretty good for my age. I go downstairs and see a lot of identical doors. Finding Itachi is not at all difficult, because only one room is saturated with his chakra. The door to his quarters is the same as mine and all the others. No plaques, no other differences. Is this a sign that everyone is equal? I knock and humbly wait for an answer. A rustle outside the door makes it clear that the owner of the room is in place. Moments later, Itachi opens up to me. The guy let down his black hair, which makes him look rather unusual. He's still wearing pants and a tank top. The brunette lets me into the room and closes the door. His dwelling looks peculiar, a made bed in a different part of the room than mine, a carpet, a crossed-out Konoha protector and an open book on the nightstand, a cloak hanging quietly on a hanger. I always knew that he was clean. I wonder where is my protector? Yes, remembering it a month later is just wonderful. In the corner of the room is a chair on which a black shirt is neatly folded. There is a comb near the sink. Apparently someone loves their hair. On the mirror, which hangs a little higher, the symbol of the Uchiha clan is scrawled in the corner. Does he regret what he did? The Uchiha walks over to the sink and, looking in the mirror, pulls her hair back into a ponytail. So he looks more familiar. Don't you get tired of brushing them all the time? I ask with a smirk, sitting down on someone else's bed. Caring for your own body never gets boring, the guy says calmly. Besides, not everyone is as lucky as you. Is that what he's talking about? Why smiles so slyly? What a sissy, whether it's me, disheveled blonde hair, and handsome. In addition, constantly wasting time on care is too long. It is better to use this time by exercising your body. This makes more sense in combat. The ball in the chest makes itself felt. Grimacing and hissing in pain, I press my left hand harder to my chest. I don't want to feel like this all the time. The Uchiha notices my condition, puts his shirt aside, pulls a chair up to the bed, and sits across from me. The boy's hands rest on my shoulders and squeeze them tightly. Black eyes stare into mine earnestly. The face is tense, the lips are tightly compressed. What is he doing? The boy's eyelids close tightly. It's time to meditate. After a couple of moments, my eyes widen, allowing me to see the Manjikyu Sharingan in all its glory. Never before have I seen this dojutsu. It is much prettier than Sasuke's unfortunate 3 tomos. The drawing begins to rotate very quickly, which may make it seem that the pupil has become 3 times larger. My head is spinning and I close my eyes. A barely perceptible breeze tangled in her hair, and her arms disappeared from her shoulders. An unpleasant feeling of emptiness and cold came to replace the warmth of other people's palms. My eyes are still closed, but the barely audible growl of the fox makes them open. Itachi stands next to me and watches how the giant kurama in pitch darkness creates light in his paws. The light is getting brighter, and now I see myself entangled in the tails of a demon. I guess what will happen next. The fox shouts the same words as the first time, swings and plunges the ball into me. At this sight, I felt a nagging pain in my chest. The uchiha, without looking at me, reaches out and pushes me hard on the shoulder. I come to my senses, floating somewhere on the edge of dream and reality. Itachi is also hovering in front of me. There is nothing around. We are in weightlessness. The Sharingan still burns in his eyes. Again his illusions. Allergy to them will begin soon. In a fraction of a second, he is near and, piercing with his eyes, punches my chest with his fist. It doesn't hurt as much, and I don't hurt at all. How amazing. How did he do it? The alien hand is completely in my body, and I can barely feel it. Not even blood. The Uchiha keeps staring at me without looking up. Slowly, he begins to pull out his hand, and it seems to me that with it he is pulling my life. A light glows in the brunette's hand. Exactly the same as in the paws of the Kyubi. Bright, hot, powerful, the embodiment of the 9-tailed demon. Itachi gazes at the ball in fascination. What is he thinking about? This is what Kurama gave you, the renegade says, fascinated, terrible power. But even that can't be called part of the Kyubi's power. Rather, it is a small part, but even with her help, you can destroy any village. Can you handle that kind of power? The master of the illusion asks, raising bloody eyes at me. If you want, I can share it with you, I answer smiling. In fact, I'm terribly curious to use this terrible power. But what should it be directed towards? I can't stand it, the brunette answers seriously, it hurts even the Jinchuriki to wear this, and I will fall dead as soon as the ball is in me. But I didn't bring you here for this. Itachi lowers his hand, and the ball continues to hang in space. This light will bring you pain if it is next to the heart. Gradually, the ball can weaken the work of the muscle, so you need to separate it. Can you do it? I ask the guy anxiously. If my heart burns out, then I need to throw out this light. I can try to divide it into 4 parts and place it in your limbs, the Genjutsu master concluded. The guy moved away from the ball, and his body began to be covered with orange chakra. It doesn't look like a fox chakra at all. Even through the illusory reality, I feel the power of his energy. A chakra skeleton appeared around the Uchiha. The bones were immediately covered with ligaments, muscles, skin and, finally, armor. The orange samurai, composed of the energy of the brunette, raised a huge sword above his head and sharply lowered it onto the ball. There was a loud crack. The ball is still intact, and the weapon lies on it. Samurai leans with his entire ghostly body, and after a few seconds the ball is torn into 2 parts. I shift my gaze to the Uchiha. He recoiled and covered his eye with his palm, along which a drop of blood rolled down and fell somewhere into the abyss. Is this ball so strong that even the chakra of the Uchiha clan can hardly break it? Itachi extends his hand, the same movement is performed by the samurai. Then the master of illusions connects the middle and thumb. The ghost does the same, connecting the 2 parts of the ball. Even from a distance, it can be seen that the Kyubi's power, now consisting of 2 parts, will not unite again. And the samurai is already brandishing his huge weapon. This time, the light separates much faster. The orange chakra instantly dissolves, leaving behind only particles, and its owner holds all 4 parts in the palm of his free hand. He walks over to me and removes his hand from my face. The blood was already caked, staining the skin of his face and palms. Itachi quickly plunges each piece into a part of my body and breaks the illusion. We return to the room. He succeeded. Burning in the chest is no longer felt. Only the unnatural warmth in my arms and legs lets me know that the power of the fox is still with me. What did Kurama eat? He wanted me to crack from your strength, but no matter how. Itachi's head falls on my shoulder. What is he? Something wet and hot. Blood. I quickly lift the Uchiha by the shoulders. My strength increased tenfold if I easily lifted the guy and laid him on the bed. Blood flows from the eyes. Need to do something. I get up and tread on the spot. What to do? Yes, we need rags. Yes. Need a wet bandage. Wipe the blood off your face. Where are the rags? This cleaner should have a towel. I open the nightstand and throw out all the contents. Some papers, drawings, letters, brushes, and inks. Among this junk I also found a blue towel. Grabbing the cloth, I immediately soaked it with cold water and sat on the bed next to Itachi. He is breathing weakly. Breathe, uchiha, gently wiping the blood from someone else's face. I wet the towel again and place it on the brunette's forehead. Come on, Itachi. Open your eyes, look at me. Say something. Read lectures about how not clean I am. I take his cold hand and do not notice how I slowly begin to sway in place. Will he die? No. He won't die. I will not let. I jump up and start making circles around the room. If everyone returns, they will know about the power given to me by the demon. Ginger will know that I didn't tell him everything, that Itachi helped me. Why do I think so? Because the reaction of the Uchiha to the redhead is more than strange. They both know something. But now is not about that. You need to wake up the black-haired one. So what did he do? Created a samurai from energy and, yes. Here it is. He spent a lot of energy, so you need to return it. But how to do that? I wrap my head in my hands. Think. I gave him the power of the elements. Yes, exactly. What if Akatsuki returns? Don't care. I step out of bed and gently pull the towel off the guy's head. I lift the brunette in my arms, feeling unnatural warmth in my hands. It's like I've become 1,000 times stronger. But now you need to hurry. Feet are literally on fire. Of course, I ran to the clearing in a couple of minutes. It's like my body is moving on its own. I gently lowered the Uchiha to the ground. Hell, I don't even know any healing techniques. When Conan comes, I'll take a couple of lessons. Now let's think. I touch one hand to the ground and the other to Itachi's stomach. The energy was not long in coming, and now I am already transferring healing forces into the brunette's body. After sitting like this for about 10 minutes, I vaguely begin to recall an unfamiliar voice that was repeating something about age-old wisdom, Rinnegan, friends, enemies. Doesn't sound like a fox. Am I hallucinating? What nonsense. Are my friends enemies? No, I just screwed myself. It's because of Itachi's strange behavior. When he wakes up, I'll ask what kind of circus he arranged. Now you need to give him enough strength. Chapter 10. After a few painful minutes, the guy came to his senses. This is an incredible relief. If he died, I could never forgive myself for it. I throw myself on the neck of the sat-down Itachi, inhaling the smell of his hair. I get sentimental around this guy. The Uchiha hugs me back absently, still not understanding what's going on. What the hell are you doing, Itachi? Bouncing off the warm body, I ask indignantly, what kind of circus is this with loss of consciousness? A squabble with pain do not want to explain. Unconscious from overwork, the Uchiha states calmly, it's not every day that I summon Susanoo in my own genjutsu. And, as you put it, arguing with the leader, he smiled slyly, is very easy to explain. I'm jealous. What? I'm ready to start to be indignant, but when I hear his cheerful laugh, I involuntarily smile. It seems like an adult, but you behave like a child. It's not all for you to fool around. The guy smiles contentedly and again takes on a serious look. How do you feel? You know, I look at my hands, then look at Itachi. You are just a genius. You should have seen how fast I ran here, and with you in my arms. It's incredible. The Uchiha smiles condescendingly and says that he was glad to help me. I'm just happy sitting next to this guy. He is amazing. And the fact that he killed his own family, well, I don't believe he wanted it. It can't be. Either way, I'll find out someday. Now I need to eat, I'm so hungry. I stand up and grab Itachi's hand. He thoughtfully looks at the palm, then at me, but still accepts help. At times like this, he reminds me of his brother's lethargy, which is annoying. Uchihas are all like that. But I'm too happy, so I won't dwell on it. Now to swallow 3 servings of ramen. I hope Akatsuki hasn't returned yet, although, I would be happy to see Haiden half-witted or Sasori boring. For so many days I managed to make friends with him. I do not deny that his impassivity irritates me, but one has only to say a few words about art, he just blows the roof. And it's pretty funny. And if even Deidara near, concert for half a day guaranteed. Why are you quiet? Pushing the Uchiha in the side, I cheerfully ask, now we will eat all the supplies, get a reprimand from Conan and, perhaps, Pain will agree to train me. I dreamily cover my eyes and put my hands behind my head. I was just thinking, the guy replies, do you really want to listen to our Conan's angry tirade? Itachi asks with a grin. I don't know, I'm in such a good mood. I'm ready to move mountains. By the way, that's a good idea. But spoiling nature somehow is not good. The Uchiha just chuckles. He perfectly understands that my strength is more than enough for this. We arrived at the place. The house was empty. The guys are still on their mission, so the whole lair is at our disposal. I rush to the table and hasten to brew 2 servings of ramen. The Uchiha must be hungry too. The divine smell immediately turns your head, causing your mouth to fill with saliva. I love ramen. I place 2 plates on the table, place chopsticks on each of them, and invite the black-haired apostate to dine with me. And my invitation is gladly accepted. Still would. No one can resist my charm. What are your plans for today? I ask the guy with my mouth full. You can't talk with a full mouth, the Uchiha says displeasedly. I don't even know. I'll probably put on a raincoat and go scare the people, the guy says completely unemotionally. Looking at my surprised face, Itachi laughs out loud. Like a child, honestly. Relax, today I have a rest. Need to finally recover from today's procedure. Then we eat in absolute silence. Now it is so necessary. By the way, if Pain refuses to train me until I learn a few techniques, then I will have to ask someone to help me. I already dealt with Itachi and fire. There are 4 more elements left. Kisame owns water and, why am I thinking? Kakuzu owns all the elements. It's sad, but there's nothing to be done. It's also not very pleasant to be alone with a shark. 2 Hoshigaki sarcastic. Thanks Naruto, Itachi breaks the silence, I'll go rest. Since you are the owner, put away the plates. With these words, the Uchiha runs downstairs. No, what a shame. And cook and clean. Maybe wash the floors too. Now, dissatisfied, I scoop up all the plates from the table and trudge to the sink. No, well, and impudence. I turn on the water and wash the dishes. Found my owner. I'm not a maid. Sponge rub dirty plates. Free labor. Everything, the dishes are ready. I wipe it dry and put it in place. Insolent. But I'm kind, let him live. I trudge over to the couch and plop down on it. Now you need to sit and obediently wait for the others. No, I guess I won't ask the leader to practice. I know him, I already learned it. He'll look at me like I'm the last idiot and say with a serious face, no, you haven't learned anything. You need to control the chakra in order to skillfully use it in the future and blah, blah blah. Therefore, let Kakuzu mess with me for another day, and then a new training session with the redhead. Yes, that would be the best. I cross my legs, put my hands palms up on my knees, close my eyes and begin to meditate. I noticed that the energy of the elements can be collected anywhere, even in the house. But on the street it's still better to do it. Even now healing forces fill my body. It seems to me that you cannot sleep at all if you gain strength every time. Finally, I feel the flow of someone else's energy. They are back. How long have I waited? I continue my meditation, feeling other people's forces. The chakra flows are increasing, which means they are already close. I can't stand it and look out the window. Akatsuki, like stern guys with stone faces, move towards the doors. Already goosebumps. Hello, little one. Haydn almost rips the door off its hinges with a greeting. For which he receives a cuff from his partner. The door is intact, fuck off Kakuzu. Rubbing his head, the priest snarls and turns to me again. Well, fair-haired, I brought you delicious treats. The apostate throws a sack of groceries on the table. Ignoring his barbs, I go up to the table and sort out the present. A few custard ramen, rice, fish, lots of vegetables. Not bad stuffed. Where did you get all this? I am interested in the visitors, and I myself sit down on a chair. We are lucky today. Haydn boasts cheerfully, we stumbled upon a rich scoundrel and cleaned out his kitchen. I would have taken more, but someone would not allow it. With these words, the priest of Jashin angrily looks at Pain, who took off his cloak and gave it to Conan. The girl immediately went downstairs. Really, Kakuzu interjected, why didn't we clean out this lazy guy? He has a house full of free food. In my opinion, to save money, you need to visit him, and not by yourself. We are not thieves, the red-haired man remarks menacingly. This was the first and last time when we petty stole food. No one dared to argue with the leader. Perfect silence reigned in the living room. broken only by the steps of the apostates leaving for their chambers. I was alone with my teacher. I see Itachi did a good job on you, Pain remarked as he sat on the couch. I asked him for help. Lowering my gaze, I answer evasively. Again this unpleasant feeling of deceit. Why did you ask the Uchiha and not me? And what should I say to him? Fortunately, Ninjendo is not here, so my thoughts will not fall into other people's networks. I didn't want to disturb you with trifles. I lower my head guiltily. I'll pretend to be a good boy and I hope this helps. You put Itachi under a lot of stress. Pain stands up, clasps his hands behind his back and begins to walk around the room. He is a capable fighter. His mind is weakly exposed to enemy influence. But he is a specialist in genjutsu, which means that he is a dangerous and strong person. I see your strong friendships. Maybe that's good. You do need friends. Thanks, I look at him softly. For some reason, it seems to me that his every word, every action is filled with falsehood. He's definitely hiding something. I'm starting to dislike this. But I am too weak for any action against him. No, I have to get ready to protect my life if need be. In the meantime, I'll build a fool and a good boy to divert eyes. Maybe we'll have dinner together tonight? Like a real family. If you want, you can join, Pain says and turns to me. I hope there will be no more misunderstandings between us in the future. I nod. No, it won't work like that. He's hiding something, why should I be honest with him? We play by the same rules. I get up from my chair and go down the hallway. Now I need Kakazu. I even imagine how I can lure this lover of savings if he refuses. And the fact that he will agree just like that is rather doubtful. He loves profit too much. Finding his room is not at all difficult. Its owner reeks of the chakra of 5 elements per kilometer. Not to be confused with anything. I knock and wait for an answer. The door is thrown open by an apostate. Thank heavens, he did not have time to remove the mask, unlike the cloak. I will never believe that the Rinnegan wearer made the wrong door, the green-eyed man says, grinning. And you will be right, I will not stand on ceremony with him. The sight of a sewn body does not evoke pleasant emotions. Can I pass? The door opens wider. Uncertainly I enter the room. A table littered with papers is the first thing that catches your eye. Under it is a huge iron safe. There is a chair next to the desk. I shift my gaze to the bed. A perfectly tucked bed stores some boxes and boxes under it. Probably, there are threads for sewing on the body. There are also a lot of papers on the bedside table. A coat on a hanger, a towel by the sink, a perfectly clean mirror. She and Itachi went crazy on cleanliness. Did you want something? Kakuzu asks, leaning back against the wall. Yes, I take a chair by the back, move it to the center of the room, throw my leg over and sit down, folding my hands in front of me. I need your help. I hope not financially. I won't give you any money, warns the apostate. Well, petty man. I will never be so mean. No, rather the opposite, and that very light lit up in his eyes. What do you mean? He pretends he doesn't care. But you can't fool the Rinnegan. The waves leaving him cleared. This indicates that he is excited. I propose to get out to some village and rob the most profitable place. This is my plan. During the time that I live here, I manage to study every person. Kakuzu does not like to justify himself to the leader just as much as he does not like to argue with him. But every time he does everything in his own way. The idea of a robbery must hurt his miserly heart. Is the snotty kid thinking about money? The green-eyed man asks incredulously, what do you need? I don't want to hear whining about taking you out of your lair. What if you run away? No. Don't fool me, kid. So you don't want to break into Konoha late at night, I say lazily, looking at his room, go into Dango's restaurant from the back door, open the cash register and take out the products. Is there enough courage? The apostate asks with a grin. It pleases, because he almost agreed. I'm a Rinnegan user, remember? But before that, I need something from you, Kakuzu nodded, and I continue, teach me the techniques of the 5 elements. Everyone you know. That way we won't rob your noodle shop in 100 years. I learn quickly. I continue to convince the interlocutor, give me a week and we will go for profit. The wired one thought, come on, Kakuzu, wouldn't you like to get another safe in your room? I just need to show the technique. Alright, Uzumaki, the renegade says firmly, stepping away from the wall, I'm in business. But the money is for me, and the food is for you. The training time is a week, starting tomorrow. I get up from my chair, walk over to him and shake his hand. He still hesitates, but it's too late. I leave the room and go to my room. In a week I will need new clothes and a mask. If we are noticed, it will be rather embarrassing to frame Akatsuki. It's so strange to come back to your true home. If everything goes smoothly, then you can run into your apartment. Unless, of course, it was sold. I fall on the bed and stare blankly at the ceiling for a few minutes. The smell of something delicious pervades my room. Dinner is coming, I forgot. So, I'll be a good boy now. The cute boy mask is not so bad. Nobody knows my true goals. Even me. But this is not for long. When I become strong, I will definitely find a way to learn the secrets of pain. Naruto, get up! Hayden yells, opening the door to my room. It's time for dinner. Well, the main thing is to control yourself. I will sing, listen to the priest's ravings, laugh and go to sleep. Exactly. I get out of bed and rush to the living room. Chapter 11. A week later, day after day, Kakuzu and I set out on foot for Konoha. I managed to learn the most standard techniques of all 5 elements. My hardwired mentor was very surprised to see me and my dojutsu in action. In addition to training with the green-eyed one, I kept thinking about where to get masks, clothes and bags. And all my thoughts crossed on Itachi. His mind is unaffected by Nintendo, which means no one will know about our outing. But persuading the Uchiha himself was not easy enough. Are you completely crazy? The brunette shouted in horror, looking at me. Itachi, I just need some things, and only you can get them, I pleaded. Yes, I'm not talking about things. The renegade did not let up. Rob Dango's restaurant. For what? Why do you want to be just like us? Renegade and thief. I don't want to hear about it. Listen, I promised Kakuzu in return for, what? Black eyes gleamed menacingly, so he is blackmailing you. Here's the bad guy. No. I rushed after the guy, who firmly went to the door leading to the room of Hayden's partner. Itachi, stop it. I grabbed the Uchiha by the shoulders. Fortunately, my strength allowed me to stop him. I am the owner of the Rinnegan, the ruler of the 5 elements, Kurama's Jinchuriki at last. So do you really think that some shinobi will be able to capture me? But in order not to frame Akatsuki, I need clothes, 2 masks and 2 strong bags. I can't trust anyone but you. The guy lowered his head helplessly, which meant his consent. Now Kakuzu and I silently walk towards my home village. Despite all my persuasion, the wired one was not going to take off the organization's cloak, which made me terribly angry. But he agreed to wear a mask. Under his cloak is a bag for money, which is not visible, unlike mine, dangling loosely on his shoulder. Instead of training clothes and an orange suit, I am wearing black pants and a jacket, over which I put on a bulletproof vest. Itachi gave it to me and made me wear it without removing it until the end of our mission. The Uchiha also obtained 2 white masks, gave them to me and told me that there were paints in the lair. I did not even think to ask why the criminals need paint. Obviously not the sun with clouds to draw. In any case, it's none of my business. During the night I painted the masks. Now Kakuzu's face will be black and green, and mine will be orange with a purple swirl. After a couple of kilometers of walking and foolishly wasted time, I propose to carry Kakuzu on myself. Are you completely crazy? Green eyes stare at me disapprovingly. We have wasted too much time, I calmly explain. I have enough strength for both of us, believe me. I close the seals and my clones appear in front of him. The wired one grunts displeasedly, looking at my copies. I'm fed up with his doubtfulness, so the guys quickly grab the man and we move forward at a terrible pace. Kakuzu at first tries to free himself, but after my threats that I will find out the code for the safe in his room, he calms down. By evening we arrived at the gates of the village. Pretty not bad, because we moved after lunch, when everyone left on a mission. My legs and arms burned terribly, but that's okay. You need to wait until it gets dark, and then move to the restaurant. Stopping 50 meters from the entrance to Konoha, Kakuzu and I began to discuss the plan of the robbery in order to pass the time. Sitting at the top of the tree, I took out a plan of the restaurant from my bag and showed my partner all the entrances and exits. We need to get out of here. I poke my finger into the paper. I follow the curved lines I drew the day before and go through the warehouse. While I'm cleaning the food compartments, you will go to the right. I continue to point at my scribbles. There is a cash register under the table, and a safe in the wall. The code must be somewhere in the table. Eat yourself. Throw the money in your bag and head back to the warehouse. I'll be waiting for you at the back door. Let's close the door and leave the village. Got it? Yes, but how do we open the door? What if there is security? The partner asks. Well done, Wired, you think. With my Rinnegan, opening the door is no problem, I assure Kakuzu. I'll scan the building and, if anyone is there, disable them. Only without murders and blood, understood? Understood, the green-eyed nods. How humble. Apparently, while I justify his expectations. What will we do if we are discovered? The criminal does not let up. I will create 100 clones and take the tail away, and you will collect the good and wait for me at the gate. The nod became my sign of agreement. The time has come. The darkness is now our ally. I take out the mask and put it on, then I toss the bag over my shoulder, throw the restaurant diagram into it and take out the second mask. Here, the sewn hand takes the mask. Can you take off your cloak? If we are discovered, everyone will know about the presence of Akatsuki in Konoha. Including pain, discontented grumbling and rustling. He rudely handed me the folded clothes. Sitting next to him, I feel his irritation and anger. But now you can't swear, there is a responsible business ahead. We jump down from the tree at once and run towards the village. My speed surpasses Kakuzu's, so leaving him behind, I fly into the village and slow down. The long-forgotten smell immediately evokes not the most pleasant memories, eternal beatings, fear, hatred. I shake my head to get rid of the obsession. My partner catches up to me and stops beside me, breathing heavily. Aligning the step, we get to the restaurant by side streets. Along the way, I remember the location of the Hokage residence, my apartment, the academy. I remember my loud statements to the third one that I would become Hokage, but what have I become? Nobody. A burden on the Akatsuki, their pawn or weapon. I lower my head and push away the thoughts. Not now. What is this whining? After all, I have the Rinnegan and the most dangerous apostates in support. But for some reason now it doesn't seem so wonderful. Well, Kakuzu whispers, go ahead. The iron door of the back entrance cools hot palms. A large padlock hangs just below the handle. Damn, never hacked that. And didn't break anything at all. But one cannot fall in the eyes of an apostate. I just won his respect. I sit down on my knees and look at the castle. I could kick the damn door in, but that would make a lot of noise. I twist the barn lock in my hands, not having the slightest idea what to do with it. There aren't even any locks. Kakuzu, I whisper to my partner, I'll start making noise now, so go and inspect the perimeter. Just don't get caught by anyone. If they notice, cut it down and drag it here. Do you even know what to do with this? The wired man asks with a grin, pointing to the lock. I know, go. The apostate moved silently to the side. No, you can't rely on him. I create 3 clones, 2 of which I send in search of something iron. The third one is nearby. Crap, I have a Rinnegan, but I don't know what to do with a piece of iron. I order the clone to repeat my actions, lift the mask, leaving the head on top, and fold the seals. Warmth spreads through the body, and I exhale it on the door in the form of fire. My copy does the same. The iron that makes up our barrier is heated to redness. She radiates heat. You cannot touch it, otherwise you can earn severe burns. I am folding the seal again, but now for the new water technique. 2 jets of cold, almost icy water rush to the red-hot door. A sharp temperature drop should damage the iron. Even a bit. And I turned out to be right. There is a small gap between the jam and the door. Now the most dangerous. I push my palm into the created hole and freeze. No movement is felt from the inside, which means either no one, or someone far from the back door. Nothing, you just need to quickly get inside and find out. I strain my arm muscles and pull the edge of the door towards me. A metallic screech is heard on the floor of the village, not otherwise. But it's too late to retreat. I pull hard and yank the door off its hinges. Now there is a hole in the wall in the form of a doorway. The darkness covers me, but hides nothing from my eyes. Kakuzu returns to the terribly loud sound and we run inside. And then I distinctly feel someone's presence. Someone inside. The waves are getting faster and clearer. I quickly step on these sensations and find myself in the main hall. Many tables, under one of them a man. And I already know which one. I put on a mask and again I feel someone else's presence. I sharply raise the table and see a guy who looks at me with fear and horror. Thin, pale, with large brown eyes and a fair head. Looks like 17 years old. It's funny, he's older than me, but he's still scared. Oh yes, I'm wearing a mask. I set the table aside and abruptly lift the stranger, dragging him into the warehouse. I nod to Kakuzu, signaling the beginning of action, and he hurries to the checkout. I drag the kid to the warehouse and roughly throw him to the floor near the vegetable compartment. Apparently, feeling free, he gropes for a head of cabbage and throws it at me. I deftly catch the flying vegetable with one hand and tear it into 2 parts before his eyes. The boy turned even more pale. Scaring people is pretty fun. What are you doing here? I ask intimidatingly. He is silent and looks at me angrily. Probably hates. He's probably the guard here. But his eyes say otherwise. I've never seen anything like it. It looks like Rikudo Sennin's eyes. Oh, he spotted the Rinnegan. Pitiful boy. And how long has Konoha been defending its domains with such cowards? I ask mockingly. The boy rolled his eyes and stood up, straightening his shoulders. He is much taller than me. A vile smirk and anger in his eyes make me step back. The frequency of the waves abruptly disappeared. Poor thief. The brown-eyed man shouted cheerfully, I'm already halfway to the police building, and in 10 minutes they will be here. A clone is standing in front of you. You opened the door too loudly. Apparently, there is not enough experience or brains, the young man teases, twisting his finger at his temple. Bastard! My foot swings into his face. The copy immediately disappears. How did I not feel? But why is the clone so realistic? Spit! I have no time. I throw the bag on the floor and mentally call on the two departed clones. The guys immediately run in from the back door, with iron bars in their hands. Idiots! I order them to fill their bags with food, and I rush to Kakuzu. Anxiety! I declare. The police will be here in 10 minutes. Move! The wired man had already collected money from the cash register and, having heard my words, with even greater frenzy began to look for the code in the papers. I hurry back. The bag is half full of groceries. I see vegetables, fish, cereals, chocolate, some meat and spices. Out of the corner of my eye, I see an open door. I didn't know she existed, but there is nothing to lose. I go into a dark room and see high shelves filled with a variety of alcohol. If you sell it, you can buy an apartment. Damn, I started acting like that mean guy at the checkout. I grab a couple of bottles of the first thing that came to hand and carry it to the common booty. Adrenaline surges, making my actions fast and precise, and my eyes see a few shades brighter. The bag is stuffed to the top, and I order the clones to disappear. Kakuzu appears at the door with prey and shining eyes. Now we must run. Create a dozen clones. I command, creating copies of myself. Without a word or question, Kakuzu does the same. Our twins become pairs and scatter in different directions. They move across the rooftops to get attention, and we run down the alleys towards my apartment. If it's still mine, then you can sit there. We unnoticed reach the house and climb to the desired floor. My apartment is sealed. What jokes! But time is running out, so, overcoming pity for my first refuge in my life, I take out the door with a powerful kick. In the dark, you can clearly see all the garbage, dust and dirt. The air is stale, it has not been ventilated for a long time. Holding on tightly to my bag, I move to the refrigerator. I open it and see what I saw before I went after Sasuke. Half-eaten ramen, a bottle of juice and a bitten chocolate bar. I take out the last two items and slam the refrigerator door. What the hell is so dark? With that, Kakuzu turns on the light. Turn it off, turn it off. I try to scream with my mouth full, waving chocolate and juice. He obediently slams on the switch. Did you come here to eat? Hissing angrily, the wired man asks, my feet would not be in this pigsty. Throw it away, suddenly gone. I just open my mouth to say whose house it is, but then I shut up. He's right, it's not very clean here. And if he finds out that this is my apartment, and even declares that I am a dirty bungler who ruined our plan. So it's best to get out of here as soon as possible. I stretch out my arms to put the food on the table, but suddenly I feel as if they were burned by the cold of the handcuffs. The juice falls to the floor, spreading in all directions. The clone has been caught. I look at Kakuzu. He looks at his wrist, which means he felt it. We leave the house, sit on me, I command again, and run away from here. Once outside, I hang my bag on my partner's free shoulder and turn my back on him. He puts his hands on my shoulders, I squat a little to catch his legs and take off. My legs immediately got unnaturally baked, which only inflames my excitement. Now we are thieves. I rush with great speed to the exit, forgetting about vigilance. A happy smile on his face. What impressions, what emotions. A joyful cry filled with fun escapes from my throat, echoing through the village. Other people's hands tightly squeeze my shoulders, a sign that I should shut up. Okay, you need to listen to my partner. There was only one lane left to the gate. Alley, and we are free. Just think about it. First robbery, and so successful. I wonder how much was in the safe. In any case, I began to benefit Akatsuki. I must somehow thank them for my education. Well, or cover up Kakuzu's eyes. What is it? He would never teach me just like that. And now you can once again ask him for help. My thoughts are interrupted by 3 silhouettes at the gates of Konoha. What the? Did they not have enough clones? Or did they understand my trick? Among the unknowns, I noticed that very light-headed bastard from the restaurant. But it's not a clone anymore. Although, I don't know. Maybe his cloning technique is special. The kid turns in our direction and immediately pulls his partners. All 3 look at us running towards the exit. Run or knock out, they do not know our faces and, moreover, personalities. All they know is that we stole everything from Dango. If they sit on our tail, still not enough strength to catch up, but I want to test the powers of the fox. I abruptly stop 10 meters from the Trinity. A vile grin on the face of the brown-eyed one indicates that his destroyed clone transmitted information to the creator. The blonde recognized me. Yes, and what the hell are you standing for? Kakuzu whispers to me, maybe let him run alone. Will I catch up with him after? No. Suddenly they will catch him and take away the prey, or, even worse, declassify him. Do you want to fight? Continues partner, idiot. They won't leave us until they catch us. Only by killing them can you escape, and you yourself spoke without blood. Stop being a hero. Let's run. As sad as it sounds, my wired friend is right. If you fight, then to the death. And I don't want to kill just like that. I sigh loudly. It's a pity. You should at least piss them off. Hey, blonde, I shout, you were afraid to act on your own, so slip the clone in? I was right and you are a fucking coward. Don't you dare call me a coward. The enemy shouts in rage, getting into a fighting stance. I'm an undercover Konoha cop. He adds the seals, and a huge energy sword appears in his hands. Wait, another man from the trio, obviously older, puts his hand on the shoulder of this bastard. Your voice, he shouts to me, I know him. What is your name? The heart skipped a beat. No, just don't declassify me. I'm wearing a mask. You don't know who I am. Everyone has long forgotten about my existence. A month ago, a Jinchuriki disappeared from our village without a trace. He continues, Uzumaki Naruto, is that you? Crap. They know. It's all about the hair. The mask only covers the face, not the head. You can't make a voice, you have to run. Faster. I take off and run for the exit. The blonde lets out a battle cry and, brandishing his weapon, runs towards me. Fool. He's getting closer. Kakuzu's hands grip my shoulders tighter, but I can barely feel it. I can only feel the growing tension in my hands. A little bit more. Brown-eyed brandishes a sword. This time is enough for me to accelerate and run close to him. I clench my fist and punch my opponent in the chest with all my might. As if in slow motion, I see a flying body and blood flowing from the corners of his mouth. The eyes are shining with hatred and surprise. I must have broken his bones. Don't care. He went on the attack. The body of my enemy flew far beyond the gates of the village. The sword that fell after the impact immediately dissolved. 2 enemies seemed to come to life and move towards me. Naruto couldn't do that. He would never become an apostate. But it's his voice and his hair. A fragment of thoughts from the head of the enemy. Run faster. I bounce off too and run without looking back. For a few minutes I can still hear running behind me. It gets quieter, and soon stops altogether. One problem less. Damn it. No, he couldn't recognize me. If only because I have the Rinnegan. Hope. A few hours later we find ourselves at the lair. I lower Kakuzu and take off my mask, hastily hiding it under my sweater. The partner does the same, and we go inside. Dark and empty. Everyone is asleep, so he needs to get into the room as quietly as possible. And I'll leave the food, and tomorrow I'll tell Pain what we bought ourselves with Itachi. I quickly arrange the products in their places and go down to the room. Quiet, no fluctuations in the air. Great. I close the door and take off my jacket as I go. The mask fell to the floor, but fortunately not so loud that it could be heard in the next room. I take out my folded usual clothes from under the pillow, and I securely hide the outfit from the case. Kakuzu will securely hide the money in a safe, food bought the day before by me and the uchiha. The main thing is that Pain does not guess. I fall on the bed face down into the pillow. I have no strength to roll over on my back. More precisely, there is but there is no desire. How did he recognize me? Although, I yelled all over Konoha every day. I swear on the ramen, I have no idea who this person is. Who will believe him? Naruto Uzumaki officially disappeared a month ago. And now, at night, a thief with blonde hair and a similar voice appears in the restaurant. But he has the Rinnegan. So it's not Naruto. The Hokage would think the same and fire this detective to hell. It is so. Chapter 12, It's been a week since the robbery. I, as convincingly as possible, explained to Pain where the food in the kitchen came from. About money, of course, no one hinted. All these days I was not left obsessive excitement. Such a disgusting, sticky excitement. It seemed to me that everyone would soon find out about my act, and I would lose my honest name. But everything was quiet and calm. I am sitting at the table in the living room. But in front of me is not ramen, as usual, but a book. I never thought I'd start reading. Yes, and without any coercion. Itachi gave me the book, said it was worth reading. And I didn't guess. Its author is my former Sannin mentor Jiraiya. In his book, he described the adventures of a brave shinobi named Naruto. The book is incredibly exciting. The second day I sit for reading. Sometimes it seems to me that this Naruto is me in the future. It remains to master 5 chapters, and the book is read from cover to cover. This is where the fun begins. Suddenly, a newspaper falls over the printed pages. Immediately I smell freshly printed pages. I look up and see Pain, who crossed his arms over his chest. The face does not express anything, but I can see it in my eyes and feel its irritation on my skin. He knew everything. This should not even be doubted, so my intuition didn't disappoint. So, the leader begins in a reserved tone, you and Itachi bought the groceries yourself? And the store, by chance, was not called Dango? My heart was beating wildly. Now I have to lie, play around, dodge, do everything to convince him of my best intentions. I lower my head and look at the first page of the newspaper. It brightly flaunts masked portraits of Kakuzu and me. And the drawings are good. Of course, the image on the masks is slightly different, but in general, very detailed. I look down and see a small photo of the Dango restaurant. I don't even look at all the screaming headlines, but my eyes find the line in which my name is highlighted in red. I immediately open the newspaper and find what I was so afraid of that night. My old photo from the academy and a picture of me wearing a mask. I have no desire to read a huge article, but I still skim through it. A month ago the Jinchuriki disappeared, the search was unsuccessful. Rinnegan in the eyes of one of the robbers, and further lines swallowed me up, as if into the depths of the sea. Eyewitnesses say that they saw light in the windows of my dwelling. Kakuzu. Because of this bungler, I got caught. In the end, it all ends with the fact that in Konoha they tend to believe that their Jinchuriki has acquired the Rinnegan and is taking revenge for childhood insults. What nonsense. Also put on the wanted list. Nothing you want to say? The leader of the organization asks in a steely voice. Ninjendo's soft footsteps were immediately heard behind him. So. You do not trust me, but now I'm ready. Let's play by your rules. When I found you half dead on the lake, I did not dare to think that I would take a thief on my soul. It's my fault, I begin calmly, I'm guilty of wanting to prove my loyalty to everyone. It's my fault that I wanted to test my abilities. It's my fault that I decided to help the organization deliver groceries. But it's not my fault, you don't want to see my development. But I learned the techniques to show my readiness to conquer the next stage of the Rinnegan. But you don't have time for a pathetic thief, do you? Perhaps that is why I decided to take such a step, just to prove my strength to you. Pain is silent and looks over me. On Ninjendo. I did not think that we, especially me, would be put on the wanted list. There was no need to talk to that bastard. Because of him, I was declassified. And now my life is in danger. No, of course, I could butcher anyone, but in this case I will be declared a nuke-nin, and then forgive my dreams of the life of a legendary shinobi. The head of the organization stood silent for a long time, but still nodded to Ninjendo. The long-haired one immediately disappeared, and Pain turned a cold look at me. Let's go, the leader calls calmly and rushes towards the doors. I don't know if he believed it or not, but he doesn't seem to want to continue this conversation. I hope so. I jump up and hurry after the redhead. He walks quietly and evenly. It was as if this fight never happened. However, I managed to think about everything except the most important. I did not betray Kakuzu, although the leader himself must have guessed about his participation in this matter. And to hell with them. We came to a familiar, almost native, clearing. I hope he's not going to hit me prophylactically. Even if I do, I can fight back. I'm not that frail outcast from Konoha anymore. 2 photographs of my portraits pop up in my head. On the first of them is a bright boy, with blue, sparkling eyes. He is dressed in an orange suit and has a village protector on his head. It is impossible to tell from him that after a while he will become the second in the photo, the criminal who robbed the best restaurant in Konoha. How amazing is our life. But what could you expect from someone like me? I was hated and feared. As a child, they were openly driven away from other children, calling him a dirty monster and a killer. The fragile psyche was even more shaken with the advent of the first friends. I grew up a little, but got even worse. A thief and, at 5 minutes to go, a chunin. Like all of them, like Akatsuki. Do each of them have their own difficult history? Has everyone gone through this to become what they have become? Show me your techniques, the leader commands, snapping me out of my philosophical musings. At first I did not understand his words, but taking myself in hand, I began to confidently fold the seals. For the next half hour, I demonstrated to Pain all the techniques of the 5 elements that I managed to learn. He didn't say anything, but I felt his satisfaction with the work I had done. Streams of fire, water, air, lightning and earth soared up and disappeared into the atmosphere. I was even able to release 5 elements at the same time. I got carried away with my task, forgot about the sad thoughts and began to enjoy this energy. The body burned from the use of Kathan, then cooled from air and water, turned to stone from the earth element, and invigorated from penetrating lightning. It's a miracle. That's enough. The quiet voice sounded too loud in my head. I've thought about what you've done. You are a thief, a criminal, a mean man, but you are my disciple. You do not deserve a drop of respect, and the fact that I continue to teach you, consider it my teaching duty. He fell silent and looked somewhere to the side. Today I will show you the third body. A lump of resentment from his words stuck in his throat, not allowing air to freely enter his lungs. You are a thief, a criminal. These words cut into my head like sharp shurikens. And the worst thing is that he is right. But it's really about getting stronger. Now is not the time to drool, Naruto. Get your head up. You are a ninja. I give my face the most indifferent expression, and cast a glance at Pain. His eyes are fixed to the side and, following the trajectory of my gaze, I turn around in the other direction. 2 people in organization cloaks come up to us. One of them is a long-haired ninjendo, and the other I don't know. A large man, completely bald with a terrible amount of piercings and a Rinnegan. Its bandage is the same as that of the first 2 paths. The third body looks awesome. I wonder what it can do. This is Shirato, my third path, Pain declares as soon as both guys approach us. His ability is to remake his own body. Cyborg, robot, machine are synonymous with his name. And you have the same skills. Wow! Who would have told me before that I would become something like that? So I can make a sword out of my leg? Great! Or kunai out of hand? Or, I don't even know. Shirato will teach you, the leader says, turning around. I hope you don't upset me, Naruto, Pain says with pressure on my name. Ninjendo follows the leading guy, and soon both hide in the greenery of the forest. I turn to the bald man and look at him expectantly. The purple Rinnegans gaze impassively into my eyes. Indeed, he is a robot. He does not blink, does not move and hardly breathes. Just looks into the soul. Yes, in my thievish, low soul. Away with these thoughts, away. Now is not up to it. I want to make sure you're ready, he says. His voice is the same as the previous 2 bodies. How can you be sure of this? I ask. In response, silence. His face is completely expressionless. He turns and walks towards the trees. Itachi used to sit there during my training. The third body takes off the cloak and carefully hangs it on a branch. I would have seen that wide back from a kilometer away without the Rinnegan. Huge muscles, pierced through by piercings. It's strange, why does every body need a piercing? Surely it's not just that. Why don't I have something like this? Perhaps my time has not yet come. My thoughts are interrupted by a loud gunshot. Glancing instantly in the direction of the noise, I jump a couple of meters up. Shirato's fist pierced the place where I had just stood, piercing the ground hard. What if I was standing there? It's not fair. I land near the hole that the shell of the bald man made. I examine the funnel and am horrified. A tightly clenched fist rests peacefully in the ground. Already goosebumps. At this moment, the palm opens and the index finger points at me. Nausea rises up in my throat. I can't watch it. Another explosion, and the second fist flies in my direction. I instantly fold the seals and fall underground. I remember this move by Kakashi Hatake. So Shirato is checking my preparation? Will be to him. I jump out sharply behind the opponent's back and grab him by the leg, pulling sharply towards me. I confess that without Kurama's powers, I wouldn't have moved him. But now the big man fell to the ground on his face. With the help of the Rinnegan, I can see how the chakra flows leading to the hands split in two. Shirato literally has 2 more arms. There are no bones in them, or rather, there are, but, like muscles, they are completely composed of chakra. He rolls over onto his back and aims at me, fists out in front of him. If he shoots, I will not risk repulsing the shells. The first emotion appears on the face of the enemy, gloating. He smirks with only his lips, flashing the Rinnegan, which is still emotionless. Thinks I'm done. No matter how. The moment the fists go towards me, I create 100 clones. While the guys are distracting the multi-armed cyborg that jumped up from the ground, I step aside. I haven't used my Rinnegan in a long time. I bet this needs to be fixed. A perfect ball of chakra begins to form in the palm of your hand. I still can't get used to the fact that this technique can be performed by me without a clone. The guys are still distracting Shirato with their importunity. After all, he certainly sees that these are copies. Suddenly, 4 fists rush over our heads. With the help of my dojutsu, I see the thin threads of Shirato energy that bind the body and its individual parts. This means that he cannot lose his leg or arm, for example, because they are tied. Pretty thoughtful. The Rinnegan in hand is ready to attack. Mentally I force my guys to attack the big man with even greater fury, and, like a spy, I run from behind to the enemy. He fends off my clones, oblivious to the approaching original. I give a tooth. With the Rinnegan he knows where I run. But it's worth the risk. Hands are already looking forward to a crushing blow to this smooth skull. Yes, I'll knock out all his piercings. It remains a couple of meters to Shirato. I had already jumped with the Rinnegan in front of me. At that moment, the big man turned around, aiming at me a large cannon that was sticking out of his right forearm. By inertia, it carries me to him, and I only now understand how badly I hit. A huge volley of blinding energy erupts from Shirato. Is this really the end? Chapter 13. Through the blinding light, I see hands on which red bracelets appear. The legs are exactly the same. It was in those places where he put parts of Itachi's fox energy. What is this? The red fox chakra emerges from them and covers the body, causing the habitual dizziness, strong heartbeat and shortness of breath. These are all signs of Kurama's cover regime. Had he shared his power again? Thanks to the energy armor, I successfully endure the strongest attack of Shirato. I was thrown several meters away from the enemy without any damage. The red chakra absorbed the big guy's chakra, making my body even stronger. Now I can blow it to shreds. Shirato took off and is moving towards me. I do the same, hurrying towards the enemy. I have red chakra and Rinnegan on my side, and 4 arms and abilities on his side. This block is getting closer and closer. 0 emotions both in the eyes and on the face. Now, even if he pulls out his gun, I won't be scared. I seal the seal, summoning clones. The guys rush forward, and I slow down a little, getting lost in the copies. Shirato swings with all his arms, destroying 3 clones at a time. And so, when he was distracted by another Naruto, I deliver a strong kick to the chest of the opponent. He flies a few meters away and falls heavily to the ground. What, formidable fellow, I made you. That's enough, Shirato says, standing up. It's not bad enough, but consider it elementary luck. Sensing security, the veil retracted into the red bracelets on my arms and legs, bringing my mind and heartbeat back to normal. Like a second skin. Thanks Kurama, you saved me. Well, first you need to understand the structure of your body. The big man began without warning. This is necessary to create a variety of weapons. For the next 2 hours, I listened to a monotonous, boring voice talking about all sorts of anatomical and biological nonsense. Bones, muscles, ligaments. Already frost on the skin from boredom and abomination. But, unfortunately, he is right, and this nightmare I have to know. He talked for a long time about the properties of the skin, the chakra, and the body as a whole. What nonsense! As a result, I theoretically understood how to make a cannon out of a hand or how to create a third leg. Now the most elementary type of weapon. He clenched his hand into a fist and pointed at me, and you know it, don't you? Enough to imagine how your fist breaks someone else's head and let him do it. I already said that the parts of the body are connected by chakra threads, like puppets, so you won't lose your pieces, and he shoots to the side, and then defiantly calls the brush back. Let your body deal with the enemy on its own. That's the only way you'll understand what's what. Like it's that easy. I timidly clench my hand into a fist and put it in front of me in the direction of Shirato. He calmly looks at me, still indifferent. What is needed there? Let the body take care of itself. Come on, body, work. I helplessly shake my hand and wait for the result. I look like an idiot. You don't want to strike, the big man explains, you need a desire. When you really want it, the fist will fly by itself. Do you see the tree? Go to him and practice. I will be watching you. He moved towards his cloak, removed it from the tree, and slowly put it on. After which he nodded to me, which meant the beginning of training. I trudged dejectedly towards the nearest tree. So what should I do? I don't want to mess with wood at all. But there is nothing to do. The sun was steadily moving over the horizon, and I was still waving my arms in front of the hated tree. Shirato left a long time ago, ordering to train until the first result. But I didn't have that. I'm tired and hungry. I'm sick of this tree. With the help of the Rinnegan, I examined each of its roots and saw the energy that connected it with nature. It's time to admit that I'm a loser. I go up to the tree and sit down on the ground near the tree. Silly, ridiculous. What did he want to teach me? I can't do elementary. No, it's necessary. Spend all day standing by a huge bush with your arm outstretched. Rage seethes in me, making me very hot. I jump up from a place and from a turn kick my foot into a tree trunk. The crack made it clear that I had damaged the base. But I'm not up to it. I connect my hands, attacking the unfortunate creation of nature. I hit and see how it takes less and less natural energy, how the roots are torn. This leads to even more intense rage. I'm just hitting that damn bush. I run back a couple of meters and raise my fist. I hate myself for this weakness. Worthless idiot. Come on, weakling, shoot. And then I felt how the bones are separated along with the ligaments. My brush bounces towards the pear and pierces it through. I stare at the hole for a few more minutes, then at my limb. It looks like it was amputated, but the threads say otherwise. And I also feel it. I feel a hand that is not there. And now how to attach it back? I was left without hands. Calm down, calm down. We need to find her first. She was lying behind a tree. I want to move my fingers, and, unexpectedly for me, they begin to move. Move, damn it. Apart from the hand. This is impossible. Unreal. In general, with grief in half, I regained my hand and now I'm running towards the lair. I am very hungry and tired. For some reason I am not happy with my victory. What a shameful price she got. The living room is empty. Of course, everyone is sitting in their rooms, getting ready for bed. I alone, like the last idiot, came to devour. And in general came to the house. But there is a whole portion of rice on the table. Oh Conan. Thank you. I sit down at the table and grind my porridge. From hunger, it seems incredibly tasty. Although, knowing this girl, all the food is delicious. My plate and wander down. Mood to hell. That asshole Shirato didn't even deign to know about my results. Well, that's right. You don't need to know about it yet. I open the door to my room and walk towards the bed. On it lies an unfinished, open book. Interest wakes up again, obscuring fatigue. I wonder what this heroic Naruto did at the end of the book. Not this loser who reads about him. Well, Jiraiya ended the work with Naruto's brilliant victory over the main enemy. The hero became famous, successful and found the love of his life. He ended the book with the words, "It's not how a shinobi lives, but how he dies that matters." What does it mean? What, the fact that Naruto is a brave ninja doesn't matter if he dies badly? Unclear. No, what was the Toad Sannin trying to convey? You have to ask Itachi, he knows. I put the book aside and turned to the wall, sinking into a heavy but necessary sleep. Chapter 14.